Stick with me here. I peaked in kindergarten, while my amazing girlfriend became the youngest Ivy League professor ever. Because of that, whenever I joined her fancy high society parties, her elite friends completely treated me like a literal welcome mat, constantly mocking and belittling me. They openly gossiped that if her first love never went abroad, I would never have become her pathetic little makeshift placeholder boyfriend in this way. They seriously acted like I did not even have the basic right to breathe their elite air. They even took bets, happily predicting that once her legendary first love returned, she would definitely dump me in under a single month. I never even bothered arguing back because, honestly, I was also just patiently waiting for the day she would finally say, "Let us break up." Finally, 5 long years later, she ditched our marriage registration date, all just to go pick up her precious first love, Chad, from the airport. I silently took this as the ultimate breakup signal she was throwing my way. So, I marched straight to the HR manager's office. My marriage leave application does not need approval anymore. The HR manager looked at me, totally stunned. What is wrong? Are you not getting married? Are you guys just changing the date? Watch what happens next. I shook my head and replied, no, I'm just not getting married anymore. Seeing his totally baffled expression, I handed him another stack of papers. I officially applied for the permanent position in Germany. I'm shipping out next month. The HR manager was even more shocked now, quickly confirming it with me one more time. Are you completely sure? You have absolutely zero foundation in Germany. Moving there is basically hitting the hard reset button on your life. I smiled, my face completely serious. The top domestic positions are already completely saturated, like a wet sponge. If I want to climb higher, would I not have to start completely from scratch anyway? After leaving the HR office, I went right back to my workspace, flipped open my files, and worked like my life truly depended on it. By the time I finally clocked out, it was already 9 p.m. Stepping into the house, I saw Stella intensely writing something important on her tablet. Her sleeves were rolled up casually, revealing her slender arms. Seeing me return, Stella quietly closed her tablet, looking right at me completely calmly. Chad is back in the country. Did you know? I know. I looked her straight in the eye with absolutely zero panic. Yesterday, when you were completely drunk, he was the guy who dragged you safely home. Stella froze for a quick second, then slightly frowned. She completely dodged that awkward topic and just said, Chad's birthday is in a few days. He wants to invite you to his birthday party. I looked right at her and asked, he wants to invite me? Why are you the one delivering his message? Stella smoothly replied in a completely nonchalant tone. He is currently working at my own research institute. I am just passing the message since it is convenient. The corner of my mouth twitched upwards, a flash of indescribable sarcastic amusement dancing in my eyes. I remembered vividly that exactly 5 years ago, when Chad originally went abroad, Stella had sworn up and down that in this lifetime, she would absolutely never, ever work with him. You saw this coming, right? Now that he is back. Those words just magically deleted themselves from her brain. I was too lazy to dig up ancient history, so I just dropped a simple, got it, swiftly ending this incredibly awkward and tense conversation. A few days later, on the exact day of Chad's birthday, Stella was totally nowhere to be found bright and early in the morning. At noon, I arrived punctually at the agreed party venue. Just as I reached the door of the private room, I heard someone inside loudly mouthing off. Why did you even invite Colin? What are you inviting him for? Can he even understand the big intelligent words we all use? Exactly. He is just a regular college grade. Everyone sitting here is from a top-tier Ivy League school. We are at least post-grads. Without Stella giving him some clout, he would never even be allowed to cross the threshold to join our exclusive party. Sister Stella, now that Chad is finally back, give us a totally straight answer. Between Chad and Colin, who are you actually truly choosing? My footsteps halted completely. I obviously knew that Stella's elite friend group did not exactly roll out the red carpet for me. Stella was the leading figure of the younger generation in the domestic theoretical physics field, the absolute youngest professor at a highly prestigious university. Her snobby colleagues also fancied themselves as high-class intellectuals. They always looked down on my educational background, arrogantly assuming I was totally inferior to Chad and utterly unworthy of standing right next to Stella. Honestly, I never thought I was lacking in any single department, but for the sake of Stella's social life, I had always swallowed my pride and tolerated whatever I could. But now, I did not need to tolerate a single thing anymore. I took a deep breath, firmly pushed the door, and confidently walked right in. "Trust me, you and I are going to love this," they sneered. "Lil Colin is here." I smirked right back. "It is hilarious actually. Come along with me." I asked if their total combined yearly salaries even matched my massive one-month cash bonus. "Where do you buy all this audacity to act so bold?" The whole room suddenly went completely silent. They stared in pure shock at the exact same guy who always took their harsh jokes entirely silently. That loud guy's face instantly turned a hilarious shade of green, and then bright red. Stella just glared right at me, saying super coldly, "Colin, this type of joke really isn't funny." I looked straight back at Stella. When others mocked me, she literally could not care less. But the very second I finally fought back, she instantly spoke up. Honestly, it was just because she and these awful snobs shared the exact same elite mindset. She absolutely hated my academic background. She also felt I was totally lesser than Chad. She probably thought she was doing charity by lowering herself just to date me. My chest felt heavy. Suddenly, Chad flashed a super fake smile, rushing to play the sweet peacemaker. "Oh, come on, guys. Colin has always had a massive temper, since we were little kids. Let's not stoop down to his level." This incredibly fake, highly manipulative nice guy vibe was literally making me sick. It was truly so suffocating. With my previous quick temper, I definitely would have thrown hands and argued directly with Chad, right then and there. But strangely, after firmly deciding to totally let go of Stella, I was just way too lazy to waste a single breath on him. I let out a sharp scoff and simply sat down. Who exactly is making me lose my temper here? Now watch closely. Seeing I didn't even bother arguing with him, Chad was easily the most shocked person in that entire room. After I sat down quietly, the whole table slowly resumed their loud chatter. Someone even intentionally raised their voice. "Old Phil, your topic this time is a huge national level project. The huge research funding alone hits tens of millions. Not like some people who only know how to make uncultured, basic cash." I honestly didn't even bother engaging with these absolute clowns anymore. After all, once today ended, I would never have to see their faces again. I looked at Stella. She seemed completely unfazed by these awful remarks. In the end, my heart still stung painfully for a few seconds. I truly felt a heavy wave of sadness for myself. Once the big feast officially began, Chad had barely grabbed a single spicy chicken wing when Stella instantly frowned and scolded him. "You absolutely cannot eat spicy food. Do you want to ruin your stomach?" Stella was an absolute genius at work, but a completely clueless toddler in normal daily life. Every big or tiny chore at home constantly required me to write a sticky note just to remind her what to do. How could someone so completely oblivious to every normal detail in the entire world somehow perfectly remember every single one of Chad's personal habits? I already had completely zero appetite, and now felt like I truly couldn't swallow a single bite. When the party ended, Stella quickly went ahead to pay the bill. They walked in front, and I trailed behind like a silent shadow. It suddenly hit me that before Chad went abroad, the three of us used to hang out exactly like this. Later on, when Chad left the country, I finally got promoted to officially being Stella's boyfriend. I quietly watched Stella's back, eventually catching up to walk right beside her. "You and I both know this feeling." I thought I changed things, but the second Chad returned, my whole life snapped right back to factory settings. The three of us finally reached the hotel entrance. Stella looked right at Chad quite seriously, and asked, "Is someone coming to pick you up?" Chad simply nodded, replying, "My older brother is almost here." Right at that moment, a sleek car pulled up. The door swung open, and a little kid lunged forward, totally hugging Chad. "Uncle, a very happy birthday." Instantly, the sweet kid spotted Stella and said super affectionately, "Auntie, you truly haven't come to visit me in so long." I just stood entirely frozen right there. Stella instinctively shot me a quick glance, but still gently lowered her head to ruffle the kid's hair first. Then, she sweetly reminded Chad, "Text me when you get home completely safe." Chad nodded right at her, then looked closely at me. There was no obvious bragging in his eyes, but it honestly felt like he was screaming at me. "See that? This is the deep bond between me and Stella. Even with a 5-year gap, you are light years away from being able to compete." Watching the car completely drive off, Stella finally turned her head and simply said to me, "All right, let's go." I paused for a quiet moment before quickly catching up to her pace. Once we both got into the car, Stella finally opened her mouth to clearly explain. I used to be super close with that little kid. I truly didn't expect Chad to hide the fact that we had already broken up. Hearing this, I turned to look right at her. The car lights were completely off. I could only see half of her face, hidden in deep shadows. Even the exposed half didn't give away a single emotion. I chewed on her explanation for a quiet moment, and finally just let out a soft chuckle. A silly misunderstanding is simply the little kid misunderstanding. Just now, all you needed was one simple sentence to explain it clearly to that boy. You stayed quiet then, but now you are suddenly explaining it to me. Don't you think that's absolutely hilarious? I simply turned my head, staring out the window. That's where we leave it. Returning home, I went straight to study. Moving to Germany means I really need to level up my German. Stick with me here. Luckily, I already knew the basics, so relearning the language was a total breeze for me. I completely stopped hiding my studies from Stella, but she literally never bothered to ask a single question. She genuinely did not care about my life at all. Anyway, the very next day, the first phase of the massive Ho-Han project officially reached a final agreement. I totally used the chance to throw a cocktail party, inviting some serious heavy hitters from the financial world. The whole thing was a massive success. Plus, I actually got completely wasted for the very first time ever. My best friend Lambert started yelling. Did no one stop him? You seriously let him get this messed up? How are we supposed to handle this now? The entire crowd just stared right back at him. Nobody had a single clue. Wait, does Colin even have a girlfriend? No way, right? Well, let's give that other girl a chance then. Does she not have a huge crush on Colin? Just tell her to drive. Lambert just clicked his tongue, super annoyed. He was about to carry me out himself when my phone suddenly started ringing. The bright screen flashed Stella's name. Lambert grabbed the phone and immediately hit speaker. A girl's furious voice barked from the device. Colin, where are you right now? Why are you not home yet? Her freezing words absolutely proved my taken status. He actually has a girlfriend. Everyone was totally shocked. Only Lambert frowned at the absolute ice in her tone. He quickly spoke up. Hello, I am Lambert. He is completely wasted. Could you please come pick him up? The other end of the line went completely silent for a second. Then, her voice suddenly turned freezing cold. Understood? Somebody quickly yelled out the address, and then she promptly hung up the phone. Now pay attention here. My colleagues were absolutely stunned, whispering wildly. I have never heard a single peep about Colin dating, right? Colin works overtime, constantly, and we have literally never seen a girl pick him up. Meanwhile, Lambert just stared at my flushed, tipsy face and let out a super confused sigh. When Stella finally reached the venue, the alcohol buzz had mostly faded. I was just sitting there, totally dazed on the sofa, as she marched right up to me. I just stared at her blankly, completely silent. Stella meticulously scanned me from head to toe, her eyes freezing, before coldly asking me, was all this really necessary? Do you really need to drink until you drop for some mindless job? My foggy brain instinctively wanted to snap back that obviously it was totally necessary, but feeling her intense annoyance, I wisely decided to keep my mouth completely shut. I simply tugged on her hand, whining like a stubborn child. Let us go home. Stella felt a sudden pang of weird guilt. Nodding sharply at a glaring Lambert, she quickly grabbed my arm and led me away. Right after that, the second I got into the car, I completely passed out inside. Stella subconsciously glanced over, noticing my crisp white dress shirt hidden under a stylish trench coat. Instantly, her tight eyebrows started to relax. He really does look so much better like this. It easily beats that overly flashy red outfit. Reaching home, she dragged me straight to the bathroom to sober me up. But instead, I grabbed her tie, pulled her down, and planted messy kisses all over her beautiful face. Pure desire flooded Stella's eyes. Finally losing all her control, she tightly gripped the back of my neck and fiercely kissed me right back. I know what you are thinking, but wait. When the room finally went quiet, my mind was totally sober, but my exhausted body could not even roll over. Stella slowly stepped out of the bathroom, clearly feeling satisfied. Her eyes actually held a super rare, tender look. Suddenly, her phone rang. Seeing Chad's name flash, she picked it up instantly. I could hear Chad panicking loudly. Stella, I messed up while cooking and burned the pot. Now, the whole thing is literally on fire. What should I do? Stella's expression instantly shifted. I'm coming over right now. Hanging up quickly, she rushed to change her clothes. Noticing my blank stare, she instinctively spouted a quick excuse. There is a huge emergency at the research institute. I have to leave immediately. Do not wait up for me tonight. Totally ignoring whether I actually believed her lie, she moved with lightning speed and dashed right out the door. As the heavy door slammed shut, the house plunged straight back into an icy chill. From start to finish, I remained completely, utterly silent. I just painfully squeezed my eyes tightly shut. The lingering magic of our passionate intimacy had not even fully faded away, yet she literally could not wait to run to another man. Honestly, time blurred, but eventually, my phone rang too. I picked it up. It was the exact same guy, Chad. My gut instantly screamed that this rival was calling just to loudly assert his absolute dominance over me. I listened to the annoying ringing multiple times before finally pressing the answer button. Chad's voice, dripping with gross affection, instantly echoed from the speaker. "Oh, Stella, please, let us make up. That is where we leave it," he whispered. "You still love me, right? One quick call, and you completely ditched Colin to rush to my side." I completely stopped breathing. I tightly gripped my phone in shock. Stella's raspy voice came through super loud and clear. "I still love you." Then, click. Let's dive right into an absolute emotional roller coaster, guys. The glowing phone screen lit up my completely pale, shocked face. At this moment, I honestly didn't know what hurt more. The harsh fact that Stella instantly tossed me aside over one single phone call from Chad, or knowing that whenever Chad appeared in front of her, she would confidently choose him anyway. She could endlessly forgive him over and over again. That realization absolutely shattered my heart. Lying silently in my room, a specific memory rushed back. Something I totally thought I buried years ago. It was the first year Chad moved overseas. That year, Stella secured her very first massive award in the physics community. I felt incredibly hyped. Grabbing flowers, I planned to sneak backstage and totally surprise her. But instead, I accidentally eavesdropped on Stella talking with a classmate. "Your awesome project with Chad took first place. Aren't you using this huge chance to travel overseas and finally chase after him? Don't tell me you plan to stay with Colin forever. Besides his pretty face, he's totally unworthy of you." Stella remained silent. After a massive pause, she finally muttered, "I'll think about it." The very next day, she looked right into my eyes and lied. "I have to attend an overseas academic conference. I'll be back next week." Even as her official boyfriend back then, I totally lacked the courage to ask if she was visiting Chad. I felt petrified. Pushing it meant she might just dump me right there. I just hid my teary eyes and forced out, "Have a safe trip." Now watch carefully, because things get wild here. I barely survived that agonizing week. When Stella finally returned, the girl who never drank showed up totally wasted. Leaning heavily on my shoulder, she drunkenly mumbled, "Stop the car." Once we parked, it was just us two in the dark. "You will never leave me, right?" My chest instantly ached with the deep, unbelievable pain that completely defied description. I hugged Stella and promised, "I'll never leave you." After saying that, I clung to it for 5 solid years. I honestly believed I could hold on until I finally saw the sunlight. I simply didn't expect the harsh reality to arrive first. I got absolutely exhausted one step too early. At this moment, my eyes were rimmed with tears. Breathing out a massive sigh, I whispered, "Stella, I'm truly sorry. I must break my promise today. I really have to walk away now. I don't want your love anymore." Early the very next morning, I headed to the office, only to discover our big boss from Germany was visiting the city for a massive inspection. After his inspection ended, he suddenly caught a huge burst of inspiration and immediately wanted to hike the Great Wall. Since I was getting transferred to Germany soon, I basically had no choice but to tag along and accompany him. I hiked upward for hours, feeling incredibly lucky just to survive. Reaching the halfway point, I sat on the stone stairs, gasping for air like crazy, when a water bottle was suddenly shoved right in front of my face. I looked straight up. It was Stella. I felt completely dumbfounded, totally convinced I was hallucinating. Opening the cap, she gently fed me a few sips. Snapping back to harsh reality, stared and asked, "Why are you here?" She just didn't reply. Instead, she introduced me to the random guy standing right next to her. "This is my boyfriend, Colin." Turning back, she introduced the guy to me. "This is Phil, a researcher from Shandong." I politely reached out my hand, faking a smile. "Hello." Phil flashed a bright, super enthusiastic smile. "Wow, Miss Stella, so your boyfriend is really this handsome? You totally scored." "Oh right. Where does he work anyway?" Stella completely froze up. She vaguely mumbled, Oh, just some tiny firm somewhere. Raising a skeptical eyebrow, I stared right at her. I knew exactly what kind of game was happening here. Stella literally had zero clue about my actual workplace. We were together for 5 whole years, and I never changed my job once. But to Stella, did my life even matter? So, I confidently stepped up to fill in the blanks. I work at Dexter and Company. Startled, Phil dramatically punched Stella's arm. Why on earth is your boyfriend acting so humble? That is the legendary Dexter and Company. Let that sink in for a second, guys. A top-tier global accounting firm. If Dexter and Company is considered tiny, literally no massive companies exist anywhere in this whole country. Stella froze, shooting me a highly complicated look. But Phil, completely oblivious, he didn't even overthink it. Bursting with endless hiking energy, he loudly declared, "I'm going on ahead. You two hurry up and catch up." Stella hummed in agreement as he marched away, leaving just the two of us walking at an absolute snail's pace. Stella's face looked incredibly tense. Who knows what was running through her mind? I sighed heavily and laid it out straight. I work at Dexter Law Firm. I am a fund manager at Dexter. I handle massive investments and manage all complex fund-related matters. Stella lowered her eyes, totally refusing to even look at me. Why are you telling me all this? I calmly replied. Next time, produce me exactly like that. Not just some nameless boyfriend with zero achievements. So what do you and I take from this? I was never just Stella's shadow. Stick with me. You're about to see real drama. Stella frowned, completely resisting him. We work in totally different fields. Why would I know what Dexter Law Firm even means? I went silent for a second, then forced a sad little smile. You are absolutely right. We truly live in two completely different worlds. That bitter smile vanished quickly. I looked straight ahead immediately. My boss was happily waving at me over there. Okay, I will stop talking now. I must go greet him. I quickly picked up my pace, taking several fast steps forward to finally reach the observation deck. I walked right up beside my boss. He playfully glanced at Stella behind me and asked, "Your beautiful girlfriend?" I just nodded. My boss teasingly asked, "Can you really bear leaving her behind to go to Germany alone? Not bringing her along?" Right at this moment, Stella walked up beside me, calmly staring out at the gorgeous mountains. Her facial features were striking and sharp, barely changing from before. I smiled faintly, taking the initiative to quickly look away. I knew Stella did not understand any German, so right then and there, I used German to openly reply, what to her oblivious face. We are breaking up. After getting down from the Great Wall and seeing all those corporate bosses off safely, I finally turned around to find only Phil left, standing right there. Pointing at a nearby shop, he said, "Stella went to buy water." I nodded. Phil talked constantly. He started a conversation the absolute second we met. Coming to climb the Great Wall was purely secondary for me this time around. Mainly, I'm here representing the Starlight Universe Pavilion, expertly handling sub-management duties and checking on the grand opening for the Aerospace, Science and Art Pavilion. This is the massive project your girlfriend has been building for 5 solid years. It opens tomorrow. You are definitely coming, right? I suddenly remembered seeing Stella open the Starlight Universe Pavilion website before. Brushing it off, I simply said, she honestly did not mention this opening to me. Besides, I have a meeting tomorrow afternoon. Cannot make it. Phil looked absolutely stunned. He instantly pulled a ticket from his pocket and said casually, "She probably just forgot about it. You are her boyfriend. How can you not be there? You are her man." I took the ticket with the completely confused, bewildered expression. Stella returned, handing me a bottle of water and casually asking, "What exactly was Phil just talking to you about?" I instinctively shook my head. Nothing much. Early the very next morning, I sat on the sofa watching Stella absolutely hustle nonstop. The moment she woke up, she pulled out her stunning custom-made haute couture suit, the specific one she only wore for accepting major awards. She dressed up perfectly, honestly looking like she was attending a royal wedding. "I have important things to do today. I might come back home late." But she only remembered to casually toss that little sentence my way when she was already halfway out the front door. Now watch closely. It was painfully obvious she had zero intention of inviting me to this grand ceremony. My heart tightened painfully, but I kept my cool, saying cleanly, "Okay, I am wishing you a flawless grand opening today." Stella actually paused for a split second. "How did you even know?" But right before she could finish, her phone rang. Glancing at the screen, she completely forgot about our serious conversation. She answered it with incredibly gentle care. You are here already? That is fast. I totally planned on picking you up earlier. Chad's freezing cold voice transmitted loudly from the other end of the line. I could not hear him perfectly. The heavy front door clicked shut, brutally cutting off the rest of their conversation. I pulled the shiny ticket from my pocket, stared at it forever, and finally called my assistant directly. Pushed back my important meeting for this entire afternoon. I have some personal business to handle, so I will not be coming in. At 2 p.m. sharp, I finally stepped inside the Starlight Pavilion. We both know where this is going, right? 5 years ago, I'm here because Stella wanted to confess her undying love to Chad. Right inside this very Starlight Pavilion. Back then, just stood among the random onlookers. Nobody realized I was there, and worse, I personally arranged that entire romantic confession setup with my own 2 hands. So, what exactly happens today? Such a grandiose ceremony. Is she still the main character here? The flashy opening ceremony finally began. I found a quiet place to stand. Once the bright spotlight hit, Stella confidently stepped onto the stage. She rocked a slender figure, and her confident walk radiated a unique elegance, making numerous female audience members whisper loudly in absolute awe. Stella grabbed the microphone from the host, speaking with intensely deep passion. This science and art museum, beautifully themed around space ascension, is a massive joint project by Beijing and the Exploration Laboratory. It is fully dedicated to pure space exploration. I spent 5 whole years completing this. As she spoke, her eyes locked directly onto Chad down in the audience. Her voice took on an extra, undeniable layer of tender magnetism. I once made a sweet promise with someone that we would explore the vast secrets of the universe together. We missed each other for 5 years. This massive art museum is the epic reunion gift I created specially for him. Chad, thank you for coming today. Let that sink in as thunderous applause erupted. The entire crowd melted at this super romantic gesture. Stick with me here, because while everyone cheered, I just stood there completely numb. Stella actually pulled Chad up on stage, and they hugged right under the spotlight. I honestly could not stomach watching another second. I spun around, only to find Phil just standing there, looking incredibly awkward about the whole thing. Phil totally blanked that those 2 were still hugging up there. He stared at me, opening his mouth to speak, but I just calmly walked right past him. I left the scene like I was never even there. Leaving the Starlight Pavilion, I headed straight back to work. Honestly, really should not have canceled that stupid law firm meeting today. After finishing work, I drove home. I parked under the dim yellow street lamp at my apartment complex, and right away, I spotted 2 familiar shadows upstairs. Stella and Chad were acting exactly like totally lovesick teenagers. Oh right, it suddenly hit me. When Chad moved back, Stella actually found him an apartment right next to hers. I quietly walked closer, catching every single word of their conversation loud and clear. Chad sounded super shy, saying thank you for the gift and how he loved it. Stella replied gently, as the breeze, telling him that his happiness was the only thing that mattered. The 2 slowly walked to the lobby. Stella waited for him to head upstairs to say goodbye, but Chad just stood there, completely frozen. Biting his lip, he complained about making her walk him home so late, pretending to feel incredibly guilty about the whole thing. He said Colin would definitely throw a huge fit. Stella frowned a bit at that, while Chad secretly gloated in the shadows. My cold voice suddenly cut through the dark. I do not mind. You are going to want to see this. I stepped out from behind the tree, staring at Chad with completely empty eyes. Just friends walking home is no big deal, right? Chad turned pale, then bright red. He awkwardly forced a fake smile onto his face. He stuttered out an excuse about overthinking. I simply glanced at Stella and walked right past them. Stella hurried after me, but stayed completely silent without offering any explanation. The second I stepped through my door, Lambert sent me a quick text message. They were throwing my big farewell party this Friday, demanding I show up. I just chuckled softly. I looked straight at Stella and calmly asked if she wanted to join my party this Friday. Stella totally froze, visibly shocked by the question. Honestly, this was the first time I ever invited her out to meet my friends. Seeing my eyes looking completely calm and emotionally detached, a sudden wave of panic washed over her. She quietly agreed to come. When Friday finally rolled around, I clocked out and arrived at the party venue right on schedule. My buddies swarmed me, super sad to see me pack up and leave for Germany. They complained about how hard it would be to hang out, begging me not to leave them behind. I smiled warmly and promised that once I built my German empire, I would fly them out for retirement. My good friend finally wiped his tears and laughed. Then Lambert stared at the entrance, totally confused, asking me if my girlfriend was supposed to be showing up too. Right as I opened my mouth to answer him, Stella's voice suddenly echoed from right behind me. She asked if they were late. I turned around, my eyes narrowing sharply as I saw Stella standing there. I know what you are thinking. Chad? Yep, he was right beside her, shocking everyone. Stella looked totally unbothered, casually explaining that Chad heard about the party and wanted to join. She asked if we minded. I smirked coldly. Obviously, I absolutely minded. But with him already inside, I could not just kick him out. Honestly, sitting through this entire farewell dinner felt like pure, unadulterated torture. Right in front of my own friends, Stella literally served rice and food for Chad. She handed him his favorite braised pork ribs. Seeing this disrespect, Lambert simply could not hold back anymore and let out a harsh, cold laugh. He sarcastically asked Stella to serve her actual boyfriend, since I could not reach my favorite dish. Stella completely froze up, looking utterly clueless about what to do. Every single person there knew exactly why. She literally knew absolutely nothing about what I liked. I just said I would get it myself. Forcing a very awkward smile, I spun the table. The entire dinner ended with this incredibly toxic vibe. Unwilling to drop it, Lambert suggested we hit the arcade next door for a game of werewolf. I was completely caught off guard. I knew he was just trying to help me win back my pride. But Stella and I were officially breaking up tomorrow anyway. I almost said no, but then I watched Stella actually nod in agreement. So what do you and I make of this? The group marched to the arcade, cards were dealt, and eyes closed. The real game begins now. Let's dive in. You and I are jumping right into the middle of a seriously tense game. Two werewolves were hiding in the match. Stella played the seer, and she completely nailed the very first wolf perfectly. Just one enemy remained. I played the witch. I showed my hand early, but my trusty antidote potion kept me alive for the finale. Call it crazy luck, or straight up destiny. But somehow, the final showdown came down to just the three of us remaining. Chad was definitely the werewolf. I locked eyes with Stella and asked, "You already proved my innocence, right? If we just vote for Chad together, victory is ours." Meanwhile, Chad completely panicked, realizing his cover was totally blown. With zero backup plans left, he actually started crying. "Stella, I am not the bad guy here. Please just trust me on this." Lambert totally rolled his eyes and yelled, "All right guys, time to vote." No surprise at all, Chad and I pointed fingers straight at each other while Stella quietly thought it over. "Now pay close attention. This is where it all shatters." She quietly whispered, "I vote Colin as the wolf." I froze in absolute shock, mind completely blank. Before I could even process the betrayal, best friend angrily snapped and yelled, "Are you seriously kidding me right now? Why are we even playing then? Forget it. Game over. Let us just let a crying baby ruin the whole match for everyone." Getting publicly roasted made Chad tear up immediately. He gave Stella the saddest puppy dog eyes before nervously looking around the room. "I honestly have zero clue why everyone is targeting me today. If you guys hate playing with me that much, then I will just leave right now, okay?" And just like that, he actually ran out the door. "It is only a game. Why did you all have to make things so dramatic?" After scolding everyone at the table, she immediately sprinted after Chad. I grabbed her arm out of pure reflex. "Do not leave." My friends were watching. If she walked away now, I would look like a complete fool. Stella paused for a split second. She totally realized how bad this looked. But ultimately, she coldly ripped her arm away from me. With zero emotion, she announced, "I'm paying for dinner. Please enjoy yourselves today." Then, without hesitating for even a second, she walked away. When push came to shove, she abandoned me just to comfort Chad instead. I just stared at her fading silhouette, feeling my heart turn to solid ice. The whole table went dead silent. Lambert looked super guilty and muttered, "Sorry, Colin. I never meant for things to blow up." I snapped out of my daze and pushed out a fake smile. "It is fine. I know you guys were defending me, but this was my farewell party anyway. Without them here, we can finally just chill and talk, right?" Sitting under the glowing lights, my eyes were super red, but I happily held my drink up high. Moving away is actually amazing news. You all need to wish me the absolute best today. I held back tears and cheered, "Wish me endless success, and that all my wildest dreams come true." Everyone just looked around at each other, their eyes welling up with tears too. One by one, they raised their drinks and smashed them against mine. Here is to a brilliant future and every single dream becoming reality. Later that night, sitting alone at home, I finally got the official flight ticket from my new company. The details read Mr. Colin, your flight from Beijing to Germany, number 17399, departs at 17:20 on January 24th, 2025. Wishing you a fantastic trip. So, the day after tomorrow, January 24th, that was the exact moment I would finally leave Stella behind. Done overthinking, I immediately started throwing my clothes into my suitcase. You and I both expect an apology here, right? Think again. Stella walked in and completely ignored the massive drama from earlier. I refused to bring it up first. She literally watched me pack my whole life into bags and showed absolutely zero emotional reaction. Have fun with that, I am going to bed. She genuinely did not care at all. Maybe she was just overly confident that I would never actually leave her side. So she acted completely heartless and brushed it off. Or worse, she knew I was moving away forever and still didn't care whatsoever. Digging through my messy closet, I suddenly uncovered 2 long-forgotten blind box theater tickets hidden deep inside a dusty bag. Memory hit me hard. Months ago, Stella and I won a special lucky draw outside the theater. These tickets meant we could watch a live show for completely free. We made a sweet promise to go together ages ago. But the second Chad returned to the country, both of us completely forgot that promise even existed. Holding up the tickets, I turned around and called out to Stella, "Let us go watch this play tomorrow." Stella just carelessly replied, "Sure thing." I gently set the ticket down, leaving it right in the middle of the table where she would look. After seeing this final show, there would officially be 0 things keeping us tied together. The very next day, we walked into the theater. Crazy enough, the actors were performing Eileen Chang's legendary classic story, Red Rose, White Rose. So what do you and I make of this? The main guy's monologue drops the iconic truth: every man has 2 women in his life. Choose a red rose, and the red becomes a simple crimson mosquito mark on the wall, while the white rose stays as bright moonlight by the bed. Choose the white rose, and it turns into a grain of leftover rice on your shirt, while the red becomes a permanent mark branded on your heart. Let's dive right into this drama. Watching this emotional scene, I totally teared up, comparing it to my own life. See, to Stella, Chad was always that pure, beautiful white rose. And me? I glanced over at Stella, hoping for a moment, but in that dark theater, she was completely laser-focused on fiercely typing out text messages on her glowing phone. Right there on her glowing screen, seeing Chad's name instantly shattered my entire heart. The text read, "What are you doing? I am so bored. Come over and keep me company. I will be right there," Stella quickly typed back. Then, sensing my gaze, she suddenly looked up and met my totally blank expression. Looking confused, she asked, "What's wrong? Is the play bad?" I just shook my head and quietly muttered, "It's nothing." I turned back toward the bright stage, bitterly telling myself that maybe I wasn't even worth being that tiny crimson mark on the wall. My chest ached so deeply. Honestly, I felt like a massive joke, a complete tragicomedy. Once the play finished, we followed the huge crowd out, but I knew exactly why she was rushing. She wanted to answer that urgent summons right away. Even so, I couldn't stop myself from asking, "Let's go home and eat. I bought so many of the dishes you love." But Stella shut me down with zero hesitation. "I can't. I have something to do," I pleaded. "It's literally just one meal together. It won't take up much time." I desperately tried to make her stay. I honestly just wanted to share one final meal with her and properly end our broken relationship. But Stella wasn't having any of it. Her eyes stayed totally cold and indifferent, acting exactly like she had for the past 5 years. Nothing had changed. She coldly said, "Next time. Just wait until I'm totally free, and I'll definitely go eat with you." And in that exact, heartbreaking moment, I finally let go completely. Just like I always did, I simply said goodbye to her. I knew it. I watched Stella turn, hurriedly flag down a passing taxi, and completely vanish from the area. I whispered softly to the wind, "There won't be any next time." Once she left, I immediately scheduled a moving pickup service to my door. Right on time, I sent all the heavy clothes I couldn't pack for Germany straight back to my parents' house. I grabbed all our sweet couple photos and matching items, packed every single piece up, and tossed them straight into the trash pile. Here is where it gets incredibly real, so watch closely. Before leaving, grabbed sticky notes to leave Stella a parting gift. Soon, the whole room was unconsciously covered in yellow notes. I just stared at them blankly. These 5 whole years were recorded on every single note, leaving behind the undeniable physical evidence that I had truly, deeply loved her. But Stella's love was exactly like these sticky notes, glanced at once, then ripped off and carelessly thrown away. And this would absolutely be the very last time I ever loved her. With only one single sticky note left, I wrote my final sentence, Stella, happy breakup. I took this final sticky note and slapped it right onto Stella's iPad. Everything was officially over. Grabbing my heavy luggage, I walked out of the house I'd called home for 5 years. The door shut with a heavy click, leaving 0 echoes behind. Normally, Stella wouldn't have noticed my absence at all, but she actually had one very specific habit. She had installed security cameras inside the house. Acting strictly on instinct, she just wanted to check what I was doing at home. So, the second she opened the live feed, the shocking scene of our final breakup hit her right in the face. We both know she didn't expect this, right? Instantly, her body went totally rigid, like she was struck by lightning, her mind going completely blank. Chad was sitting right beside her at that moment. He used a fake lab problem as an excuse to lure her over, only to watch Stella's soul seemingly leave her body. He was already feeling super uneasy, but now, watching her face drastically darken just from glancing at her bright phone screen, he grew incredibly anxious. He could only nervously ask, did something happen? Stella didn't explain. She simply hurried to stand up and leave, with utter panic written plain as day all over her face. This was a frantic expression he hadn't seen in the entire 10 years he'd known her. Let's stop here for today, she said. The next steps. With your skill level, you should easily handle it. Chad's gut intuition screamed that this had something to do with him. Not wanting to be totally ignored, he tried his absolute best to make her stay. Did something happen to Colin? He can handle things perfectly well on his own. You seriously don't need to be in such a frantic rush. In the old days, Stella might have actually sat back down, but now, having literally just seen that message, she lost all rationality. How could she possibly sit back down in peace? No, Stella truly didn't say another single word. She blindly grabbed her heavy coat from outside the lab and bolted. As she left, Chad completely failed to stop her. His face instantly darkened. You and I just know something crazy happens when he finally makes that phone call. Can you do me a huge favor and investigate something? Stick with me here. She rushed out the door, frantically dialing my number on repeat. Always out of coverage. Strangely, her facial expression still barely showed any real emotion. But look closer. Anyone who knew her would see those tightly pursed lips and tightly clenched fists. She was radiating an absolutely unprecedented level of pure panic. That hidden panic waited until she got home to completely explode. Stella froze at the door, staring at my house, entirely covered in little yellow sticky notes. The fading sunset spilling across the balcony gave those bright yellow notes a really heavy, deeply tragic kind of vibe. She opened her mouth to shout my name, but stopped. She knew it was totally pointless. I was gone. These notes were the very last pieces of me left behind in that house. She slowly read them, one by one. Her eyes absorbed every single handwritten word. Suddenly, her heart completely flared up with the sharp ache. This feeling was way more suffocating than all those years ago. Yes, even worse than when she heard the news about Chad moving abroad. For the first time ever, Stella realized some things were just completely out of her control. Then, a sudden flash of insight hit her. She suddenly remembered the Dexter law firm that I had mentioned earlier. She wildly searched the address online and frantically rushed straight over. But without an appointment, she got completely blocked by the receptionist at the front door of the firm. I'm Colin's girlfriend. I have extremely urgent business today. Can you please contact him? Her palms were completely sweating. Just saying that sentence made her feel inexplicably, wildly tense. The receptionist simply stared back at her in absolute confusion. You are Mr. Colin's girlfriend, and you still need me to call him? Stella was totally stunned, unable to form a reply. Now watch closely. Just as she was totally panicking, my boss predictably walked right up behind her. He tapped her shoulder, signaling her to follow. Stella chased after him in such a frantic hurry, immediately asking in English, "Hey, do you happen to remember me? We met once before." The boss definitely remembered her, but he also clearly remembered my cold attitude. So now, he just smiled and told her, "You will not find him at work." Stella totally froze, then quickly asked, Has he already gone abroad? Is he never coming back? The boss replied, without a single moment of hesitation. Yes. Stella completely turned to stone. It took a long second before she managed to squeeze out the words. Abroad? The boss nodded. His face remained incredibly calm, but his heavy words hit her like stray bullets, piercing straight through her fiercely beating heart. Did you not know? He applied for the company transfer to Germany an entire month ago now. Stella's face turned completely dark. A month ago? Wait, was that not exactly when Chad returned home? You and I both know what that means. I was preparing to leave her. Realizing this, Stella felt totally overwhelmed. She felt a massive, crushing weight on her chest, barely able to breathe. He never discussed this with me. She barely finished the sentence before looking up. The boss was staring, highly entertained, like watching a dramatic soap opera. In a flash, she felt a massive wave of pure humiliation. Right, I understand. Thanks. She forced the stiff words out, turned around, and marched away. The boss watched her leave for a long minute before looking away with a tiny hint of pity. Then, he just looked down and texted me. Hey, your girlfriend came to the company looking for you. Looks like she is ready to chase you to Germany. After sending it, he suddenly realized I was currently on an airplane and definitely could not reply to his message at all. Having only enjoyed half the juicy gossip, he shrugged it off as nothing and left. Meanwhile, Stella returned home from the Dexter office, absolutely fuming. Whether it was the weird looks from strangers or the fact that I just disappeared without saying a single word before breaking up, she was feeling insanely, completely frustrated. Right now, seeing the house covered in those yellow sticky notes just made her even madder. Leaving notes just to clear your own conscience? Is that it, Colin? I will absolutely not let you unilaterally end things like this right now. Stella angrily gritted her teeth, ripping down all those sticky notes and furiously crushing them together. The rough paper, scratching her palms, stung a little, but she refused to let go, aggressively hurling every single one into the trash bin. Out of sight, out of mind. Then, her phone rang. She quickly snatched it up, but it was not my number. A heavy wave of disappointment washed over her, but she answered anyway. Hey, you asked me to look up the flight number for Colin. I found it. I also tracked down the exact location of his German company. Trust me, you will want to see this. Getting that address sent a massive surge of joy through her. When I return, I'm treating you out. Saying that, she went to book a plane ticket, but her close friend totally hesitated, asking her, doing these little favors is fine, but I seriously need to ask one question. What on earth is actually going through your head right now? Stick with me here. With Chad back and Colin suddenly dumping her, you and I both know this is a total golden opportunity, right? Why track him down? Her friend's voice grew completely serious. Please don't tell me you actually fell deep in love with him? Stella visibly flinched. A tiny spark flashed across her heart, but it faded way too quickly. Before she could even react, it vanished completely. Trying her absolute best to suppress that feeling, she replied super calmly, no, I just want a totally clear explanation. Even if we break up, I need a reason. Do I seem like someone he can just toss aside whenever he feels like it? Stella was totally blind to it, but her friend on the phone was sharp enough to easily pick up on that deep dissatisfaction and intense anger in her voice. Even years ago, when Chad dumped her, she honestly never had these massive emotional swings like she was experiencing right now. But obviously, she couldn't point that out today. She just vaguely replied, got it. Go do your thing. I won't bother you anymore. Hanging up. Stella quietly pondered for a second before making a quick call elsewhere. Connecting the call, she quickly said, Chad, I have something to tell you. After successfully booking her flight, Stella hurriedly rushed straight to the international airport. A lab staff member called her up, asking, project is hitting final stages. What is the meaning of you suddenly taking leave? Stella gripped the wheel tightly, her calm tone leaving zero room for questions. I have urgent business to handle. It won't take long at all. If things go smoothly, I might be back tomorrow. The other end went totally silent before whispering. Chad came back to build up his entire career specifically for you. The way he has been acting toward you lately, I simply refuse to believe you haven't noticed it. Irritation suddenly flared in Stella's heart. Losing her politeness, she firmly snapped, this is entirely my personal business. The unspoken meaning? I'm leaving anyway. If it's like that, I have nothing to say. Click. The call disconnected. Stella furrowed her brows. she finally realized just how horribly severe her circle's complete ostracization of Colin had gotten. "You and I need to watch closely." Right to her face, these people spoke with blatant disrespect, showing wild bias towards Chad. Behind her back, just how much insane trash had they been talking? How many awful things had they done? Stella gritted her teeth, slamming the gas pedal. Next stop, the international airport. People speaking totally different languages from across the globe converged at this massive transit hub, heading off to completely different destinations. Stella spent quite some time before finally tracking down her actual boarding gate. Sitting right there in the waiting lounge, she actually felt completely tense. Subconsciously, she pictured the wild scene 12 hours from now. She lands in Germany, and Colin suddenly appears right before her. She would totally interrogate him first. If they were breaking up, why couldn't he just end things face to face? Besides, they hadn't fought in 5 whole years. Everything was incredibly stable. Why the hell did he want to break up? If it was because of Chad, that just gave her a massive headache. Deep down, she knew she definitely still had lingering feelings for Colin. Didn't he promise to stay by her side forever? It had only been 5 years. How could he just break his promise? Stella felt her brain completely churning in chaotic waves. "I know what you're thinking." Even she hadn't realized. Her total anger suddenly shifted into figuring out how to literally beg him to stay. Then suddenly, her phone ringtone blared, completely startling her. Stella literally jumped, and purely out of quick reflex, she hit the reject button. Calming herself down just a bit, the call came through again. Only then did she finally react, hesitantly picking it up. "Are you here to try and talk me out of it too?" Her tone carried this inexplicable exhaustion, but Chad remained just as gentle as ever. It was like no matter what insane crisis happened right in front of her, to him, it was just some minor inconvenience. Stella used to think this personality was an absolutely perfect match for her, but now, she just found it incredibly irritating for no reason. "Stella, I'm not here to talk you out of it. I'm here to tell you the real truth. Don't you want to know exactly why he suddenly dumped you?" Stella gripped her phone super tight, forcing out a single word. "Why?" Chad let out a chuckle on the other end of the line, a laugh completely dripping with hidden meaning. "Because between you and his future, he chose his future, Stella. This trip to Germany is a totally crucial career opportunity for him. If he spends some time abroad and then comes back, he'll be the main person in charge. Why would you go totally out of your way to ruin the man's future? So what do you and I make of this?" Chad's brutal words just completely shattered Stella's rose-tinted world. "Stick with me here." She instinctively opened her mouth to deny everything, but her boss's exact words suddenly echoed. "Our guy applied for that Germany transfer a whole month ago. So no, leaving her had absolutely nothing to do with Chad coming back into the picture. The truth, I had already decided to let her go. Chad showing up was just some wild, random coincidence." Realizing the truth, Stella forced her eyes shut in pure agony. Right then, an absolutely massive wave of intense fury completely swallowed her whole. Stubbornly ending the call, she sat alone in the airport like a totally frozen, soulless statue. She stayed stuck until the loud boarding announcement finally echoed. "The cabin doors close in 15 minutes. All passengers, please board immediately." That finally snapped Stella back to reality. At that exact second, the shiny plane ticket she held became totally laughable. Forcing a bitter smile, she grabbed her heavy luggage and marched straight to the service counter. Her face was locked in a terrifyingly cold, icy glare. "Hi, I need to process a ticket refund." Meanwhile, after more than 10 hours of flying, my legs felt like absolute jelly stepping off that long plane ride. Luckily for me, the manager of the German branch was already waiting right outside the arrival gates. Super quickly, she picked me up and drove toward the dorms. "Our company is still starting up here, so please bear with us. The dorm conditions definitely aren't anywhere close to how good things are back home." She chatted smoothly while driving. "Hi, my English name is Fiona, and my Chinese name is Cook Ti Jiao. Even though I am ethnically Chinese, my speaking skills are pretty rusty. You will have to teach me more. Now pay attention here." Fiona spoke flawless German, but totally stumbled over her Chinese name. "Chinese?" I asked, feeling like I finally met a true compatriot far from home. I couldn't help but stare at her a few more times. Wearing a stylish camel trench coat, she looked super tall with long legs. Her casual motion, lifting my heavy luggage, revealed pale, surprisingly slender arms. At this moment, she drove smoothly with just one hand. The cracked window let the wind playfully mess up her hair. totally adding this effortless cool vibe. Fiona glanced right at me through the rearview mirror, smirking with pure amusement. What are you staring at? I got completely burned by that smirk and quickly looked away. Nothing. I had never dealt with a woman this incredibly confident and bold. Most people back home definitely were not this openly generous. On the surface, they acted friendly, but always kept things strictly low profile. Honestly, so low profile it almost felt totally fake. So, a quick flicker of novelty danced across my heart before fading out. Reaching the law firm dorms, Fiona thoughtfully helped carry my heavy luggage upstairs. She carefully checked the water, electricity, and furniture before finally getting ready to head out. If you need absolutely anything, just find me in room 304. Fiona tossed the keys down and offered me one final piece of advice before opening the door. Always remember to check the peephole before opening the door. You are brand new to this floor, and lots of different people live here. I know what you are thinking. Pretty intense advice, right? I nodded, taking it seriously. Only then did Fiona turn around and leave, firmly shutting the door behind her. I finally let out a massive sigh of relief. Even though she was an official employee from the law firm, just being totally alone in a room with a strange woman made me feel incredibly awkward. With her finally gone, I had the mental space to carefully inspect the brand new room where I would be living for the next few years. Compared to my old house, this spot felt way more like a hotel, a 40 square meter room holding only the absolute most basic furniture. Aside from that, there was literally nothing else. Still, completely collapsed onto the soft bed, eyes incredibly heavy with exhaustion. Now, finally had some time to grab my phone and connect to the internet. I saw my boss's new message and instantly fell totally silent. Stella was actually coming to find me? I highly doubted the odds of that. Deep down in my heart, I honestly didn't believe it. Yet there was this undeniable, crazy anticipation keeping me awake until 48 hours had fully ticked away. I lay on the bed laughing at my pure stupidity. How did things even get to this point? I was seriously still lying to myself. It felt totally awful. I didn't care anymore. I was getting ready to sleep when the phone in my hand loudly buzzed. I opened the screen, only to see that Chad had just posted a status update. Went around in a huge circle, but the person beside me is still you. It came with a photo, a clear picture of two hands tightly intertwined. One look was enough to instantly recognize Stella's hand. I felt pure pain, like a sharp knife brutally carving right into my tight chest. Dark emotions surged inch by inch, spreading outwards. I literally couldn't breathe properly. I mentally prepared myself a long time ago, thinking maybe after I left, Stella would finally get together with Chad. I never expected this. 3 days, and they are together. So what do you and I make of this? This photo hit like a gunshot straight to the heart. I lay there, throwing an arm over my eyes. Nothing but pitch black stared back at me. Hours passed, and a lone tear finally slipped down my cheek. I was so totally done hurting over Stella. Stick with me here, because moving on is tough. For 5 whole years, I did things I completely hated just to make her forget her ex. Like if she wanted to hit the library during the freezing winter, I would wake up at some ungodly hour to sprint to campus and snag her a seat. Beijing winters are brutally cold, completely desolate. And there I was, buried in a massive coat, still freezing my absolute tail off. When I heard her lab needed funding, we were literally just broke college kids, even with our crazy high grades as backup. Those rich investors still loved tossing bidding, mocking comments right in our faces. Knowing that, I met every single one privately first to test the waters. And obviously, I never breathed a word of this to Stella. I figured, if you like someone, you just step up. If I told her the truth, she might only catch feelings out of pure guilt or gratitude. I only ever wanted her genuine love, not her pity. What a total joke. I gave everything and got absolutely zero in return. My eyes burned. That heavy, crushing feeling surged up again, pulling me straight into the dark. This is the final time, swore to myself over and over. The absolute last time I will ever let Stella break my heart. Now watch closely, because 3 years changes everything. Rocking a black coat and a sharp haircut, I stood tall and totally untouchable. The second I walked in, grabbed the attention of absolutely everyone in the room. Totally ignoring them, marched straight into the top office. The guy waiting inside was the main boss of the German branch. Seeing me, a rare smile actually broke through his permanently grumpy face. You made it? I nodded, found a comfortable chair, and took a seat. How is the application looking? The manager chuckled, sliding a folder out from his desk. All done. Your transfer back to the main domestic branch is officially green lit. You fly out in exactly 3 days. Once you land back home, you jump straight to being the number 2 guy in charge. How is that for a massive promotion, right? Hearing that, I finally let out a real laugh and stepped up to grab the official papers. Checking over the details, the heavy tension in my face finally vanished. I spent 3 brutal years building the Dexter German branch into an absolute powerhouse. They had to promote me just to keep me, I joked. A seriously rare moment for me. The boss totally went along with it, chatting for a bit before sending me on my way. Stepping out, I bumped straight into Fiona. Over these 3 years, her Chinese language skills had leveled up insanely fast. So, how did the meeting go? I just waved the shiny new folder. Going home, I gave her a warm smile, feeling just a tiny bit sad to leave. You and I both know she was super happy for me, but behind that smile, she felt a massive sense of loss. So, we really will not see each other again after this. I lightly tapped her shoulder, keeping things casual. Hey, it is fine. Worst case, you just transfer to China for work. Whenever you arrive, I will personally take you to hike the Great Wall. I tossed that out super casually, not really thinking twice. After all, her entire life and family were still rooted right here in Germany. Plus, with her accent, I was basically the only person who could even understand what she was saying. But surprisingly, she looked deep in thought, gave a firm nod, and said, "That sounds perfect." Figuring she meant the Great Wall hike, I brushed it off, turned around, and kept walking, leaving Fiona standing right there, staring super intensely at my back as I left. Fast forward 3 days, I land safely in Beijing. Rocking dark shades, I casually stroll forward. Just behind me, a woman in a classic tan coat completely brushes past my shoulder. The gap between us was barely 5 meters. Suddenly, Stella freezes right in her tracks. Pure confusion flashes across her face, and she violently whips her head around to look. Behind her, the massive airport crowd just keeps moving, everyone rushing off in totally different directions. But my familiar silhouette was completely gone. She frantically scans the terminal as this crazy, unexplainable feeling bubbles up in her chest. "Hey Stella, what is wrong?" her coworker asks. Instantly masking her feelings, she just shakes her head and replies super coldly, "It is nothing. Thought I saw someone else." Dropping that, she coolly turns around and marches straight ahead to board her flight. But a weird twist gripped her heart. 3 whole years had passed. Why was she suddenly thinking about me today? Did the breakup not sting her enough back then? Stella squeezed her eyes shut, desperately, burying all those messy emotions deep inside. Exactly 3 years ago, I pulled the plug and ended things with her just to secure my own future. She never chased me, never said a single word, just silently accepted the entire split. She genuinely assumed healing would be exactly like getting over Chad. Miserable for a bit, then fine. But, so what do you and I make of this? A week later, I was still stuck in her head. Stick with me here. A full month after the breakup, she still misses him. Even meals bring back memories. Waking up every single day, she would just remember having him right there beside her. Ruining her laundry by mixing colors? That just makes her miss his constant, annoying nagging even more. Her whole life was completely flooded with his warm presence, but he had totally thrown her away. Stella tried keeping her dignity. She pushed through the pain, absolutely refusing to track him down. But that heavy longing, it grew way stronger, literally crushing her spirit into pieces. Only then did she finally realize, way too late, that she had completely fallen in love. But he was already long gone. Stella snaps, her eyes wide open, feeling her chest completely suffocating with regret. Staring out the window, she looks over the massive, sprawling city. But she knows perfectly well, he is not out there anywhere. Exactly 3 days after flying back home, Colin officially takes his new office. The Dexter boss remains his direct, trusted superior. They work together perfectly, but staring at the big contract on the desk, Colin suddenly falls into absolute silence. "Now pay attention." His boss sighs deeply, pulling back. He knows Colin wants absolutely nothing to do with Stella. But for this massive case, they are the only local team actually qualified to partner up with them. He offers to swap someone else in if it gets too awkward. Colin just frowns, firmly, holding the contract down with one hand. No need. Since he chose to come back to Gunning Tree, he is fully prepared to finally face her again. Seeing his boss looking super serious, Colin just chuckles. "When is the meeting?" The boss quickly replies, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Colin nods and turns away. Zero hesitation. He is completely ready to accept this challenge today. Yes, the future always held a real chance of them crossing paths again. Actively avoiding her would just make her look down on him. Plus, she probably has a super stable romantic life now. Maybe she is even married already. Why should he care? He comforts himself with those thoughts, forcibly pushing all his heavy emotions down. Arriving at the club, he stands by the door, breathing deep before pushing it open. His heart is hammering wildly, practically threatening to jump right out of his nervous chest. He nervously scans the room, but Stella is missing. Instead, he just sees totally unfamiliar faces. A man walks right up, offering a very polite smile. He introduces himself as the person in charge of the specific lab division today. He tells Colin to just call him Little Wang. The guy looks 25. But he speaks and acts with some seriously impressive, mature professionalism. Colin stays perfectly quiet, just smiling as he sits down. Little Wang mentions their boss is arriving soon, asking him to wait. Colin plays it cool, but his hands are completely covered in nervous sweat. Right on cue, the door behind him swings wide open. Little Wang immediately jumps up to welcome the arriving professor. I know what you are thinking. It is Stella, right? But the voice asking about Dexter behind him is definitely not hers. Colin stares blankly at the newcomer. It is just another completely unfamiliar face greeting him. His racing heart suddenly plummets straight into his stomach. But hidden deep within that huge drop is a really weird, indescribable sense of loss. Hello, I am Colin. He extends a friendly hand. The newcomer quickly shakes it and offers a quick explanation. Sorry about this, but Stella went abroad recently and has not returned. Today I'm temporarily taking full charge here. Colin has zero objections, smoothly entering the main negotiation phase with him. Yet, internally, his mind is totally spinning with pure, chaotic anxiety. Did Stella genuinely go abroad? Or is she just intentionally avoiding him today? Once details are finalized and the signed contract is secured, the man finally flashes a bright smile. Business is officially settled for now. Now we can just sit and talk, right? Colin pauses, taking a really good, hard look at this guy's face. He uncertainly asks if the guy is Phil. Phil nods vigorously, his facial muscles instantly relaxing. He thought Colin was blaming him, pretending to ignore him. Colin just laughs helplessly. Sorry about that. It has genuinely been so long, his memory is fuzzy. Plus, Phil never even introduced himself. Phil's face shows a funny hint of helplessness, too. After a long pause, Phil mentions how he invited Colin to that big grand opening event. Days later, he heard Colin and Stella broke up, so he felt awful. He trails off, and Colin instantly understands. Phil thought he indirectly caused their brutal breakup, leaving him super guilty. Colin just laughs it off, comforting the guy. This has nothing to do with you. Even if Phil was not there, Colin was planning to break up with Stella a few days later anyway. Phil totally freezes, opening his mouth, but ultimately staying completely silent. Colin does not dwell on it, just walking right out ahead of him. Little Wang, having overheard this massive secret, is horrified. His pupils literally tremble as he asks Phil if Colin is the professor's ex-boyfriend. Phil just nods. Trust me, you and I will want to see what happens next. Let's dive in. I was honestly wondering how Professor Stella could ever get so totally heartbroken and drunk over love. Turns out the guy is actually this handsome? Phil was completely lost in thought. Seriously, he absolutely never expected that someone like Stella, especially after drinking, would shout my name all night long, making Chad so incredibly furious he nearly exploded, and then simply act like absolutely nothing happened. The next day, going to work completely normally. For 3 whole years, Stella hasn't had a single guy by her side. Was she really still waiting for me? Realizing this, Phil's eyes suddenly sparkled. He quickly chased after me, stopping me right at the door. Giving him a truly weird look, I asked, "Do you still need something?" Phil was somewhat out of breath, but mostly, he just looked incredibly nervous. Stella has been completely single all these long years. That completely abrupt statement genuinely shocked me. I just instinctively asked, "She isn't with Chad?" Phil frowned deeply, immediately asking back, "How could she possibly be with Chad?" Not long after their messy breakup, Chad actually went abroad. Honestly, in my eyes, the two of them are completely innocent. Hearing that, I couldn't help but frown deeply. I definitely hadn't forgotten that sweet photo Chad posted before. Did Stella break up with him again? Or maybe Chad cruelly dumped her a second time? I couldn't help overthinking the drama, but I quickly snapped straight back to reality. Honestly, just wanting to mentally smack myself for even caring. Whoever Stella is dating now, what the heck does that even have to do with me? Realizing this, my expression instantly turned totally icy cold. Stella and I have long since completely cut all ties. Whether she and Chad are together or not, that's her choice. I just don't care. After speaking calmly, noticed Phil's expression completely shift. But I honestly didn't think much about it. Pay attention here. I gave a polite nod, turning to leave, but then I totally froze, coming completely face to face with the absolutely freezing, icy glare of the woman standing directly behind him. It was Stella, who I hadn't seen in 3 years. My eyes trembled for a split second. Every single word got entirely stuck in my throat. I couldn't even speak. 3 years. The absolute moment I saw Stella again, I surprisingly felt zero sense of unfamiliarity deep inside my heart. It was honestly as if I hadn't forgotten her for one single day of those 3 long years. Thinking of this, I just couldn't help letting out a bitter laugh. I really haven't let go. Regardless, the current me shouldn't let any messy emotions leak out. Long time no see, I just said incredibly blandly. There was absolutely zero emotion in my voice. It honestly sounded like bumping into a completely casual acquaintance. Or maybe even a total stranger. Stella's face was incredibly ice cold. I don't know if she heard what I said. She simply gave a very curt, polite nod. Her sharp gaze swept right past me, glaring straight at Phil standing behind me. This time, it was a blatantly obvious warning, basically telling him, "You seriously crossed the line." Phil completely choked on his words. He had no choice but to just awkwardly change the entire subject. "Didn't you claim you wouldn't make it back in time?" Stella gave a quick, speaking incredibly calmly. It took less time than imagined. "So, I came to check things out." I raised an eyebrow, saying absolutely nothing at all. I just opened my mouth and calmly stated, "You guys catch up. I have some urgent things to handle, so I will be going." Stella didn't even reply, standing there incredibly stiff and upright. I walked right past her and left, but I heard her coldly tell Phil behind my back, "Next time, do not bring my business up to completely irrelevant people." My footsteps completely faltered. Irrelevant? The corners of my mouth curled up in absolute self-mockery, and I just continued walking away. Stella clearly heard my footsteps falter, and her expression finally turned entirely to ice. Even the very air surrounding her completely dropped in temperature. "We all see it, right?" Phil completely noticed her fake tough act. Laughing coldly, he just snapped, "Keep acting tough until Colin easily gets a brand new girlfriend. We'll see exactly where you run to cry about it." Stella subconsciously twisted that little ring on her finger. She stood completely frozen in place, not even bothering to spare him a single glance. "Didn't you hear him? He already said he just doesn't care about me. So, doesn't that truly make me the irrelevant one?" Phil finally softened his tone. He really had nothing left to say. "Fine, suit yourself." He angrily walked away, but after taking just a few short steps, he suddenly stopped and muttered, "When I first met you, you weren't acting like this. Otherwise, I simply wouldn't have jumped ship to join your lab. But, there's one important thing I'm very clear on. With this Dexter case, domestically, it's really only us who can partner up. But since we chose Dexter out of loyalty to your principles, please stop bringing any personal feelings into it. Otherwise, one day, you'll truly regret it." After saying that, Phil left the room. Stella stood there with an icy face for a while, suddenly feeling a very deep, inexplicable sense of exhaustion. She was abroad, found out I was handling this case, and forcefully sped up her schedule, intentionally rushing straight back. What exactly was she doing all this for? Stella fell into a completely rare silence. Ultimately, her heart was a totally chaotic mess, but she genuinely had no idea where to even begin unraveling it. Back at the firm, I wrote the contract inside, totally unfocused, mindlessly flipping through my document pages. That's where we leave it, trust me. You'll want to see what happens next. Let us dive right in. Someone just knocked. My assistant, Brother Sung. The German branch transferred someone new. Want to go meet them? I frowned. This was totally unexpected news. I had zero heads up about anyone dropping in. Keeping my cool, I completely hid my confusion, got up, and followed him out to the lobby. Walking right into the lobby, a super familiar voice caught my ear. "Hello, everyone. I am your future colleague. My name is Fiona. My Chinese is not great. I totally froze. A really warm, happy feeling filled my heart. Seeing her completely surrounded by all the guys, I just let out a soft chuckle. Fiona, why do you use that exact same excuse every single time to chat up people from China? Hearing my voice, Fiona quickly spun right around, flashing an absolutely massive, radiant grin. She clearly remembered using that exact same excuse on me years ago. Well, am I totally wrong? She playfully fired back. I barely knew any Chinese back then. Honestly, without you personally teaching me, I absolutely would have needed a full-time translator to survive here. Two adorable little dimples popped up on her bright face. For a second, I was completely stunned by how incredibly stunning she looked. Snapping back, I quickly realized all the guys in the office were openly staring at her, completely captivated by her massive charm. I just smiled helplessly and rescued her. Come to my office. Do not stand here. I turned around to lead the way, and Fiona happily followed. Behind us, the entire crowd just stared, watching us leave with absolute raging jealousy. Tell me, does she like our brother Colin? Is it not completely obvious? She literally chased him from Germany. If that is not love, what is? Man, our other Colin still has that absolutely massive charm. He makes it look so incredibly easy. Brother Sung quickly cleared his throat, giving them a very sharp, silent look to just quiet down. All right, that is enough wild gossip for today. Back to work. Everyone finally scattered. Even Brother Sung secretly glanced toward my office door, totally unable to hide his massive curiosity. Inside, I poured Fiona a fresh cup. Here, yourself totally at home. This Longjing tea is truly top tier. Fiona happily nodded her head. Taking a quick sip, she smiled genuinely. So good. You really have to be right here in China for the absolute best tea. I let out a soft laugh, feeling super nostalgic and comfortable. Listen to you. If you didn't claim your Chinese was bad, everyone would think you were a local. So, Director Fiona, how does it feel? Well, I am originally Chinese. I just never grew up around here, I know. Then I carefully asked, why did you suddenly decide you wanted to come work in China? Were you not just promoted in Germany? Fiona gently set her teacup down, softly tracing the rim with one finger. Now, pay attention. This part is totally amazing. She playfully asked if my invitation was just a joke. I laughed, completely remembering my departure and my exact words to Fiona. I was honestly just being polite back then, but Fiona had taken it extremely seriously. What a beautifully bizarre misunderstanding. I sighed softly, then carefully asked, wait, what about your parents? Did they not object to you returning? You mentioned they are getting older and really want to finally take things a lot more easy. Fiona nodded, looking straight up, her eyes totally calm. I said I wanted to return to China. They had absolutely zero objections. They just wanted me to visit our old hometown and take some nice pictures. Hearing that, I finally felt completely relieved and happy. I playfully offered, need my help finding your hometown? Fiona nodded incredibly eagerly, applying in her adorably clunky Chinese. Yes, of course. Without your help, I'm totally going to get lost. I chuckled warmly. So tell me, where exactly is your old hometown? She pulled an old photo from her bag. Number 303 Happiness Street, located right in the Central District. My hand violently jolted. I almost completely dropped my hot teacup. Trembling in absolute sheer shock, I whispered, say that again. Number 303. This time, she pronounced every single syllable incredibly clearly. You and I both know exactly what is coming. Hearing that street name clearly, my face instantly became a wild mix of pure joy and absolute shock. I excitedly asked, do you know exactly where I lived as a kid? Fiona confusedly shook her head. Breaking into a massive smile, I proudly announced every word. I lived right at number 302. Fiona's eyes went incredibly wide with sheer, absolute astonishment, though a tiny bit of disappointment followed. Oh, wow, what a massive shame. I moved away at age 1. My memories of China are completely gone. Hearing you say that, we definitely must have met as little kids. I nodded thoughtfully, highly possible, but honestly, when you actually went abroad, I was only 3 years old. I honestly have absolutely zero memory of you either. Fiona let out a cute little sigh, playfully tossing the entire subject to the back of her mind. Alright, I am leaving this completely to you. Right now, we have something way more important to do. She smugly raised an eyebrow. I asked curiously, what is that? Instantly, I watched Fiona get absolutely hyped up. Someone promised me great food after work. I was stunned. Looking at her bright smile, my heart completely melted. Trust me, you and I will love watching this unfold. Stick with me here. I smiled warmly. All right, it is a deal. We are going after work at 6 p.m. sharp. Fiona showed up exactly on time at my office door, totally patient. She just stared at me unblinkingly, radiating pure hype. How could I even think about working late? I shut my computer down and clocked out right on time. Let us go. We are eating Peking duck. It was super rare for me to play the big gracious host like this. So naturally, brought her to a legendary Beijing restaurant. I wanted to book a VIP room, but this energetic girl totally insisted on experiencing real, authentic Beijing culture. Hanging in the main hall, I had zero complaints. It is just that whenever I brought Stella here before, she always complained about the noise. So we grabbed a private room every single time. I was just so used to walking straight into VIP seating. Honestly, I love lively places. I enjoy hanging out, and Fiona totally matched my exact energetic vibe. After ordering, Fiona looked like she still wanted more. It is a real shame it is only us two. Otherwise, she seriously wanted the entire menu. I smiled softly at her. Hey, it is fine. I will bring you here again next time. Fiona's eyes lit up like stars. Really? She asked in disbelief, a tiny hint of sadness creeping in. Do not do what you did before. Do not make casual promises, because I take them seriously. I froze. I never realized this carefree girl was actually so incredibly observant. This time, I genuinely felt pretty guilty. So, I nodded completely seriously. I promise, whenever I am free. Only then did Fiona smile with total satisfaction. As the dishes arrived, we happily rated the food. Fiona must seriously love eating. She cleared every single plate. As her host, seeing her absolute appreciation made me laugh out loud. Honestly, it was strange. Whenever I hung out with Fiona, I felt completely and totally relaxed. Whether we were abroad or back home, I was always purely happy around her. Stuffed and satisfied, I smiled, stood up, and went to pay. Fiona did not act overly formal with me. She waved happily, patted her belly, and laughed. You go ahead. I seriously need to rest a minute. I looked at her dramatic display, smiling helplessly, and walked toward the cashier. After paying, I headed back, but Fiona was completely gone from our table. I pulled out my phone, realizing she went to the restroom, so I sat right back in my chair. Now pay attention here. A familiar voice drifted down. I looked up, spotting Stella and Phil. They wore sharp business clothes, looking like they were discussing a major contract. My warning radar instantly triggered. Stella is not considering switching partners because of me, right? One quick glance, and Stella knew exactly what I thought. Because she read my mind, her expression shifted rapidly. It is just a normal meal. Do not overthink it. I was just hungry, making things incredibly awkward. I will wait for Fiona, then we are leaving. If there is nothing else, I will be going now. An intense, indescribable unease surged through Stella's heart, especially seeing those bowls and chopsticks right there, very clearly a table for two. Her silent anger hit absolute boiling point. She could not stop herself from rushing over and grabbing my hand. You feel that tension, right? We meet again, and 0 words for me? My expression instantly dropped into a scowl. Did I not already tell you? Stella could not hold back, her hidden emotions rarely showing this clearly. Does long time no see count as a real conversation? I immediately furrowed my brows in sheer annoyance. Pure displeasure covered my entire face. Outside of our work, meaning outside of business, there is absolutely zero need to ever converse again. Understanding my cold meaning, Stella's face turned completely rigid. She clenched her fists, finding herself totally speechless. This was definitely not the right place for drama. Because of our intense standoff, several people were already staring our way. Phil just sighed, reminding her someone was waiting. Only then did Stella snap back, finally loosening her heavy grip. A deep red mark bruised my hand. Suit yourself, she muttered coldly, turning around and preparing to leave. But suddenly, she spotted a woman walking happily toward me, speaking fluent German. I am ready. Let us go. She glanced at Stella, asking curiously, do you know her? I replied completely flatly, just a casual acquaintance. Let us go. Saying that, I prepared to walk away. Stella did not understand German, but wasn't blind. She could easily see the obvious dynamic between us. An acquaintance? Suddenly, Phil's warning words from that exact day echoed loudly. How are you so sure he has not found a new girlfriend? In that split second, pure jealous instinct made the choice for her. Stella fiercely grabbed my hand again, demanding word by word. Who is she? I froze. Suppressing my rising anger, forcefully pried Stella's tight fingers away. Trust me, we both love this. My gym strength easily broke Stella's weak science lab grip. Alright, stick with me here because this drama is wild. Stella's face turned completely red, but she let go, demanding I keep my hands off. Hearing my broken Chinese made Stella freeze up. A foreigner? Fiona was seriously annoyed, gently telling me she would just handle this. She shot Stella an ice-cold glare. What exactly do you want? Honestly, Stella wanted to ask herself that very same thing. Her brain was just a total chaotic mess, unable to form a single clear question. Phil, who had been watching this whole drama unfold, finally could not resist jumping in to ask, is this her? He only meant it as a joke back then. He never expected it to become a reality. I instinctively wanted to deny everything, but looking into Stella's dark eyes, something shifted. For some unexplainable reason, I said yes. Phil completely froze up too, staring at me with the complicated look, staying silent. Meanwhile, Stella looked totally shattered after hearing those words. Her eyes instantly filled with intense redness, completely struck with absolute disbelief. You have one? I was totally thrown off by her sudden counter question. I forced a smile and fired right back. Did you seriously think that after our breakup, I was somehow obligated to stay single just for you? Hearing that, Stella looked like she had been heavily struck. She opened her mouth, but felt nothing except an overwhelming wave of pure bitterness. That is enough. I shot her a highly annoyed glare. 3 whole years passed. Now watch this epic mic drop. I grabbed Fiona's hand, turned my back, and walked straight away, leaving her standing there shocked. Stella stood completely frozen for a really long time, feeling like her entire heart had just been utterly pierced. The pain was so agonizing she felt entirely defeated. Her face slowly turned extremely pale. Seeing the tense situation, Phil could only pat her shoulder. He sincerely told her that since things happened, they should just look forward. After dropping that advice, he walked inside first. He really did not say much. With Stella's strong personality, she would figure things out. Quickly, she locked her emotions down. All that remained was a deep redness in her intense eyes. She stubbornly stared at my retreating back, carrying a mysterious, unexplainable obsession. On the flip side, I pulled Fiona out of that restaurant. My mind was scrambling, so I barely realized what I was doing. I just tightly held her hand until we reached the underground parking garage, finally letting her go. Fiona's heart actually gave a secret, gentle flutter the moment I released my grip. We both hopped into the car, and neither spoke a word. I felt clueless about starting a chat, and Fiona kept the quiet vibe going. I let out a heavy breath, looking at her seriously. Sorry for using you. Fiona tried playing innocent, letting out a soft gasp. Everyone spoke Chinese so fast just now. It was too hard to even understand. I was totally stunned. Hearing her claim she did not understand, I felt completely lost for words. I just sighed very softly. It is totally fine if you missed it. Let's leave it there. I smoothly deflected. Waiting by her dorm, I felt amused. You see the irony too, right? In Germany, she always walked me. Now, back in China, the roles were reversed, and I walked her. What a genuinely funny twist of fate. Fiona smiled bright, totally catching my drift. Yeah, fate. Want to come up for a drink before heading back home? I quickly shook my head. I drove here. How can I drive after drinking? Fiona almost suggested I sleep over, but suddenly realized her current room was tiny, barely 40 square meters with just one single bed. She quickly swallowed those words. All right, I will head up then. See you tomorrow. I mumbled in agreement, noticing she was not getting out of the car just yet. I turned around to look, locking onto her absolutely sparkling, brilliant eyes. I turned to look at her, locking onto those sparkling bright eyes. My heart felt like it took a massive, helpless hit, but I smiled and happily replied, see you tomorrow. Only after hearing exactly what she wanted did Fiona finally step out of my car. She quickly dashed upstairs and vanished. I felt a weird vibe, like dropping a real girlfriend off. After a little chuckle, I drove off. Meanwhile, Fiona unlocked her door, and her cheerful expression completely vanished. The warm vibe she showed me earlier disappeared in an instant, leaving absolutely zero trace behind. She grabbed wine from the fridge, poured a glass, swaying toward the window. The sunset here felt totally different from back in Germany. Down below, she spotted older folks strolling around, blasting upbeat music and dancing in the local square. In this totally unfamiliar setting, it showcased a peaceful rhythm she had never truly experienced. Fiona barely took a sip when her phone buzzed. She answered with pure ice. So what do we make of this? If I stayed, I would have realized that icy collar was actually her German boss. Miss Fiona, settling into China yet? You pulled this wild stunt out of nowhere, and honestly, I have no clue how to explain this to your mother. Stick with me here. Chasing a guy to China is pure madness. Fiona just let out a soft, totally shameless laugh. Tell her whatever you want. That is, if you aren't terrified of my mom storming your house to demand what exact relationship I have with Colin. The other side went completely silent for a while. He was clearly shocked by Fiona's sheer audacity. After a long, heavy pause, he asked numbly, so, did you actually manage to catch him? Fiona remembered the random woman who suddenly showed up today. A sharp flash of coldness crossed her eyes. Still chasing. Oh, right. That woman you helped me investigate is named Stella. I need absolutely every single piece of information on her. Don't miss a single detail. Meanwhile, I had a brutal time getting home. After showering, I just wanted to crash into bed and sleep. Who knew Stella's endless phone calls would drop like a nightmare, just ringing one after another? I frowned, rejecting them one by one. Seeing she had zero intention of stopping, I got super annoyed and directly blocked her number. The world finally went completely quiet. But who would have thought? Not even 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. I was so annoyed and ready to answer and curse them out. But seeing my boss on the caller ID, I quickly hit the brakes. The angry words on the tip of my tongue instantly morphed into a super polite greeting. What's up, sir? Looking for me at this hour? Did a contract go wrong? Who would have guessed the boss would say, Stella, is our party A? Why did you block her number for absolutely no reason? I totally froze. Then a wave of intense resentment quietly spread through me. Now pay attention. 3 years unseen. And Stella actually learned to use authority to bully people. Of course, I couldn't possibly recount my entire history with Stella to the boss. I could only grit my teeth and reply, yes, I totally understand. I'll unblock her right now. The boss hung up, completely satisfied. She must have gotten the notification because Stella's call came in super fast again. This time, no matter how much I hated it, I had to answer. Stella, what in the world do you want? Can you just say it clearly all at once? Stella's tone was incredibly natural. It didn't carry a single hint of a threat. I want you to break up with your current girlfriend. Hearing this, I was so angry, I actually laughed out loud. Stella, you seriously bothered me for this long just to say this? Complete nonsense? Stella answered without a single shred of hesitation. Yes, I just let out a cold, sharp laugh. Then I'll tell you right now, absolutely not happening. Originally, I didn't want to use Fiona Dotto to trigger her anymore. But hearing this crazy demand right now was seriously trampling my rationality straight into the dirt. My girlfriend and I have been happily together for 3 years. Our relationship is incredibly stable right now. Who knows, we might even get married in the future. Can you please just stop sticking your nose into my personal business? Stella's breathing suddenly became super heavy. It was as if she was desperately trying to suppress something big. Before you left, you said I was together with Chad. What did that mean? She changed the subject incredibly fast. Just like how hearing me mention marriage made her quickly find an excuse to escape. No, I kept my face completely blank. It didn't mean anything. I already made room for you. You should be happily with your first love right now. Stella's voice suddenly rose a few pitches in panic. After I broke up with you, I have never been with another man. Her frantic sentence was only half finished, but it was easily enough for me to guess everything. I smirked sarcastically. You and I both see it, right? Maybe that status update on Chad's WeChat was posted on purpose. Maybe that woman's hand was literally photoshopped. After all, with their current dynamic, Stella really had absolutely no reason to lie about this. But honestly, so what? Whether she was with Chad or not, it didn't matter. 3 years ago, I had already made my firm decision. Now, couldn't be changed either. I know, I replied, completely indifferently. Then I bluntly stated, I'll say it again, Stella. We have absolutely no relationship anymore. From now on, whatever man you want to be with has absolutely nothing to do with me. I also hope that outside of work, we never contact each other. After saying that, I decisively hung up the phone. Now that I had finally poured out everything in my heart, that heavy, Suffocating feeling in my chest seemed to lessen quite a bit. My phone received another text message. It was directly from Stella. I assumed Stella was furious and sent some harsh, insulting message. But I never expected that after unlocking it, I'd find a message with such an unbelievably subservient, humble tone. "No, we're just dating, not married." I was completely floored. I honestly couldn't believe it. I read this message over and over again, several times. But no matter what, I couldn't dare to believe it. This was actually sent by Stella. You and I both know what this means. Her intention was crystal clear. She wanted to get back together. But precisely because I saw it, I was horrified. Back when we were together, I had almost never felt such a proactive, desperate attitude from her. "Stick with me. You are about to watch a totally cold girl beg her ex to come back." My face completely changed. But honestly, I decided to ignore her messages entirely and just quietly dropped her number straight into my block list. Maybe she just had a total breakdown and lost her mind, but I definitely had not. 10 whole years of chasing her had already drained every ounce of my strength. Getting back together? Unless I completely lost my mind, I would never do something that ridiculous. Stella sat on her sofa, looking totally anxious. Ever since she sent that desperate text begging to fix things, a full half-hour had passed by. But her phone did not show a single new reply. She figured that even if I randomly went to take a shower, 30 minutes was way more than enough time to finish up. So, she held her breath and sent another text. Suddenly, a bright red exclamation mark popped up in the chat. I had completely blocked her again. Her heart instantly dropped from the sky, shattering right on the floor. She just stared blankly ahead. There was nothing in the empty air, yet it looked like a familiar shape was floating there. Now watch closely. 3 years after our messy breakup, she often felt someone standing right there beside her. She knew her mind was breaking, but absolutely refused to seek help because she was terrified this illusion would vanish from her world forever. At this exact moment, the person she saw before her was me, wearing those old pajamas she remembered so well, just sitting there working on a laptop, casually glancing her way. "Why are you staring at me?" The old Stella would never ask that, because she was so used to totally ignoring my gaze, which was always overflowing with so much love. But now, she actually wanted to ask: "Do you still love me?" Her voice echoed in the giant room, but only the sad sound of her breathing replied. The fake image of me vanished, leaving absolutely nothing behind. She tightly squeezed her eyes shut in pure pain. Her heart was completely overflowing with sorrow. The very next day, headed into the law firm. I was planning to push my current case forward, but got suddenly called right into the boss's office. The lab team suddenly ran into a weird issue. They said they needed a big extension on their delivery timeline. My boss looked at me with totally hesitant eyes. He sighed heavily and said, "Go find out what happened. This important case cannot be delayed. If they need anything at all, just cooperate and give them a hand." Even though he said it so casually, his eyes were clear. Make it work at all costs. I clenched my fists tight, feeling a massive wave of total helplessness creeping in. Rushing over there right now. Who knows what Stella was actually thinking about? You know, this is awkward, but for work, I had no choice but to go see her. I finally sighed and said, "Understood. I will personally visit them." After stepping out of the office, I walked straight back to my desk. Looking completely emotionless, I grabbed my phone, pulled up the old documents, fixed a few details, and printed copies. Holding the fresh contract in hand, I snatched my coat off the chair and walked out. It was late autumn and completely freezing out there. By the time I reached Stella's lab, my face was super pale. I rarely visited this place. 3 years passed. Most of the old staff were completely replaced, so everyone just saw me as an employee from the Dexter law firm. Definitely not the famous professor's ex-boyfriend. Well, until one girl accidentally spotted me and practically gasped out loud, her eyes totally burning with some intense disgust. How do you still have the absolute nerve to come find Professor Stella?" I just let out a cold laugh, instantly recognizing this girl as an old lab employee. She definitely knew all about the past relationship between me and Stella. As for why she held such a massive and weird grudge against me, honestly, I would love to know that answer myself. Following that girl's super aggressive questioning, the atmosphere around us instantly froze. The way everyone stared at me definitely carried a heavy hint of judgment. It felt like I had committed a terrible crime. I did not make a single move, but memorized every face. Luckily, Stella rushed out right then. The exact moment she spotted me, Pure joy exploded across her entire face. I just raised an eyebrow, feeling genuinely surprised right then. Seeing Stella step out, the angry crowd instantly scattered away. The two of us walked quietly, one after another, into Stella's office. I instinctively took a few extra curious glances. I realized she probably spent 12 hours a day inside here. The room was bizarrely simple. Against the wall sat a massive bookshelf stuffed with everything from physics to complex math. Most of these books looked like they had been heavily read. I pulled my gaze back and stared at Stella. Without wasting a single second on small talk, I cut straight to the chase with her. Didn't you always want to talk? I am right here. Once we finish discussing this contract, can we please just continue with the business trip agenda? Stella was super thrilled that I came looking for her at first, but hearing those cold words, her face completely stiffened. And trust me, things just got incredibly awkward again. Listen, you and I are diving into some serious romance drama. The main reason I avoided her was exactly this. She stayed totally freezing cold. If happy, she'd barely speak. When she felt miserable, she dragged everyone else down with her. In her head, this was just her way of keeping absolute control over everything. She never even noticed it herself. Do you despise me that much? Besides our office business, is there absolutely nothing else you want to discuss? Like the real reason why you actually moved overseas back in that year? Stella looked away, deep sorrow flashing in her eyes. Fine. I frowned hard. If we didn't clear this massive misunderstanding up right now, it would never end. I will talk, I stated flatly. The real reason we broke up back then was honestly just because Chad suddenly returned to our country. Stella's eyes shook. She looked completely stunned. But I heard you did it because you wanted a big promotion. Ha! I instantly let out a sharp, freezing laugh. My eyes were completely filled with ice, staring her down so coldly it was practically a weapon. So, you actually believed it? That single sentence left Stella totally speechless. She really believed it. After all, Chad had pulled the exact same trick on her before. She honestly thought she was being tossed aside by her boyfriend yet again. I took a deep breath, my expression turning totally freezing. Stella, I promised to stay right by your side forever. Do you remember that? Stella's face totally froze. After a long pause, she nodded very stiffly. Then I continued, I promised I would never abandon you just for a promotion. Watch closely. Things are getting wild. I don't care who fed you those lies. You believed them in the end, and that ruined absolutely everything for us. I suddenly remembered that specific year. A weird text claimed Stella was flying to Germany just to find me. Back then, reading that message, I totally believed it. I even started daydreaming about us. If Stella chased me all the way to Germany, how long could I actually resist her? But the sad truth is, she never showed up at all. It turned out to be exactly this. She bought someone else's huge lie. She really thought I betrayed her. I honestly wanted to laugh out loud. My eyes grew slightly red from the pure frustration. Right then, Stella finally realized she had been completely played like a fool by Chad. She tightly gripped the edge of her desk as her heart absolutely sank. The truth was, I never actually betrayed her trust. I left the country because her actions completely shattered my heart to its absolute core. So, did she honestly think there was still a chance to start over? Stella felt insanely anxious. The big truth, hidden for 3 long years, was finally exposed. Right before her, shocking her so badly she literally could not breathe. A massive mountain crashed down heavily onto her chest, making it totally impossible for her to even try to struggle or endure the pain. My face stayed totally freezing as I handed over the thick file folder. If you think the old business contract is putting way too much pressure on your company, I have a brand new deal right here. We can drop the rate by 1 single point compared to before, but absolutely nothing more. My tone was purely strictly business. Now, not a single drop of personal emotion remained. Stella's heart ripped completely apart as she tasted the incredibly bitter reality of massive regret. You and I both know this hurts. If I found you in Germany, would you forgive me? I tightly gripped the folder in my hands, yet my face remained completely blank, showing absolutely zero emotion. Honestly, the exact second you kept pushing me away over and over just for Chad, our future ended. That brutal rejection instantly drained all the remaining color from Stella's face. It felt like every single drop of her strength was instantly siphoned entirely away. She usually seemed totally indifferent, but right now she looked completely exhausted. She just stared blankly at the printed contract. Without saying a single word, she grabbed the contract, picked up the fancy pen right beside it, signed her name quickly, and handed it back. I grabbed the paper and flipped straight to the final page. Her signature was missing. Instead, I just saw 3 very neat block letters. I am sorry. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and opened them. My glare was absolutely freezing cold. What does this even mean? If you hate the terms, just do not sign it. Stop wasting my precious office paper for nothing. That sarcastic jab hit Stella hard, yet it somehow lost all its usual power. She stayed perfectly silent for a moment before speaking up. Keep the contract exactly as before. I do not need any pity concessions. I stayed quiet for a long second before asking, so, your team will actually fulfill the original deal? Stella just nodded, her face completely pale. I honestly hated seeing that miserable expression on her. She made it feel like her intense disappointment was entirely my fault. Honestly, she was the one constantly chasing after Chad first anyway. Everyone falsely assumed I was the cruel guy who dumped her. It annoyed me endlessly. Stopping by the exit door, I turned back around. I truly hope the next time we ever cross paths, your eyes stay completely normal. Please stop looking at me like I am some vicious heartbreaker. Since this whole mess was just a huge misunderstanding, fix your feelings as soon as possible. My reputation matters too. After dropping that final reality check, I simply turned and walked away without any hesitation. You and I just witnessed pure madness. Stella breathed heavily, her face darkening. She hit the intercom. All hands meeting in 30 minutes. Let us dive into some crazy relationship drama. Leaving the lab, I texted my boss that things were handled, then finally shut my phone off. Work was completely off my mind. Honestly, my heart felt incredibly bitter right now. I figured hashing everything out at Stella's office would naturally ease this heavy feeling inside my chest. But man, truly never expected things to go sideways. For the past 3 years, Stella seriously hated the status of our entire relationship. Huge misunderstandings stood between us from the absolute beginning, but neither of us actually bothered to explain anything. The issue was, Stella just could not open up. I honestly believed that if I acted subservient and held on a bit longer, I could eventually melt her cold heart. Sadly, I never once considered if she even wanted those sacrifices I made. To her, I was probably a passing whim from day one, just a random toy to play around with for an afternoon. Now, she was probably just too used to me. After going in circles, she picked me again. Not out of real love, but purely out of comfortable habit. I was totally lost in thought until my phone suddenly rang super loudly. Flashing on the screen was one clear name, Fiona. My heart started violently pounding again. I honestly didn't know how to handle this unexpected call. Hesitating for a moment, I answered. What is up? Fiona clearly had no clue what I just survived. She happily laughed and said, what is up? It is after work hours now. Obviously, I'm asking if you want to go hang out. All right, I sighed. Today genuinely had way too much going on. Right now, I was utterly exhausted and simply wanted to drink and vent. So, without overthinking anything, I just agreed. Let us just meet next time. Fiona briefly hesitated, but pushed it aside and cheerfully agreed anyway. I just said and hung up. Then, I quickly sent the night color bar address to Lambert. Now watch carefully, because here is where the plot thickens. Stella left the lab and Phil immediately dragged her to the bar. Who knew wide-eyed Phil was such a heavy drinker? Stella normally hated loud, crowded spots, but Phil asked if she wanted to blow off steam, successfully convincing her. Yet right after arriving at the wild bar, that idea instantly morphed into massive regret. On the dance floor, people wildly shook their heads, completely forgetting everything. Stella gripped her wine glass, highly focused on downing drink after drink. Honestly, it looked less like blowing off steam and way more like she simply wanted to get totally wasted. Yet before she could even get fully drunk, she heard my name. Her hand totally froze. Turning her head, she spotted me, sporting a black sweater with my trench coat draped over a chair. My handsome face and Lambert were laughing hard and loudly cursing her out together. Yeah, literally cursing her right out. Lambert heard about today's mess and violently slammed his hand on the table, making everyone nearby involuntarily flinch in shock. Seriously, how does a selfish woman like Stella still have the nerve to come looking for you to make peace? Has she not ruined your life enough? You wasted 10 whole years on her. Honestly, how many decades does one person get? What right does Stella even have to treat you like that? Lambert angrily gritted his teeth. She absolutely deserves a harsh taste of begging for something, and simply never getting it. That is the only way real karma works. Listening to you whine for lifetimes. Stella is a huge, big shot figure in the physics world, running that massive modern lab. That endless begging you are talking about, I am afraid she will never taste it in her lifetime. Stella just listened in silence. Tilting her head back, she downed another intensely bitter glass of wine. Meanwhile, I did not even care what covered our table. I just slammed glass after glass. I figured these sweet-tasting drinks probably lacked a high alcohol content, but I completely forgot. They were actually several glasses of specially mixed hardcore cocktails. Very quickly, I was totally wasted, slurring my words. Actually, you cannot entirely blame Stella for this. Stella froze. You feel the tension, right? Her hand tightened, inching closer. I was totally unaware. She stood right behind me. I bluntly answered, looking from her specific perspective. I am clearly no different from some absolute scumbag who suddenly decided to dump her. It is no different than coming home from work, finding the house completely empty of luggage, and reading a cold breakup text from your girlfriend. Exactly that. I would be incredibly sad too. I specially emphasized another sentence. Even though I do not love her. Hearing this, Stella's heart screamed in frantic denial. I love you very much. Such a pity nobody could hear her anymore. I quietly downed another heavy glass of wine, my mind already getting quite blurry and hazy. But tell me, what the hell is Stella thinking? Why did she never notice me when I truly loved her? But now that I do not love her, she comes running back like some lost puppy. Does she secretly have some weird kink she cannot say out loud? Stella almost choked. I was suffocating inside the bar. She never expected her inconsistency would make me think in that wild direction. Her face instantly flushed red, then dark. What an epic sight to witness together, right? Stick with me, we are diving into some wild romantic tension. Lambert laughed hard, grabbing my shoulder and winking. Still curious about her? Have you actually not forgotten her yet? Hearing this, Stella completely held her breath, eagerly watching my face. What are you talking about? Out of everyone in the entire world, she is the one person I absolutely despise. Even though I was totally wasted, my harsh words hit like sharp knives. She seriously deserves to end up lonely, spending her whole life stuck with her boring lab equipment forever. Stella stared right at me, then quietly dropped her gaze, perfectly hiding the absolute heartbreak and deep bitterness in her eyes. She simply kept swirling the wine glass in her hand. Thanks to her stunning looks, so many guys were secretly watching her, until one super confident guy finally made his move and boldly walked right up to her table. Can I get your WeChat? The random guy smiled brightly, flashing his lit phone. Stella didn't even look up, firmly shutting him down. The dude's face completely changed, clearly hoping to say something more to her. Phil immediately stepped in to save the day. No worries at all. If she passes, I will totally add you instead. The guy flashed a cringe smile, grabbed Phil's WeChat, and quickly bolted. Phil finally turned his attention to Stella, noticing all those empty wine bottles stacked near her. His eyelid twitched wildly. Stella, I literally looked away for one single second. And you drank this much? Are you even planning to show up for work tomorrow? He yelled so loudly that everyone at the nearby tables immediately turned to stare at them. Now watch this tension. Lambert and I glanced over. Stella totally froze, feeling my intense stare burning right into her like actual fire. Taking a heavy breath, she gathered up all her courage. But when she finally looked back, my silhouette had already vanished completely. Her heart felt totally hollowed out, empty, and broken. An insane wave of mixed emotions started pouring straight out of that painful void. Stella murmured softly, I feel pretty wasted right now. I'm heading home. Are you staying here or coming with me? Phil was already flirting with another guy, but he sighed with obvious regret. Alright, let us just leave. If I knew partying with you tonight would be this incredibly boring, I totally would have invited someone else. Shockingly, Stella stayed completely silent. She just quietly followed behind him, leaving the club while desperately searching the area to catch one last glimpse of me and Lambert. Finally, outside the busy club, Lambert was frantically hailing a cab across the street, while my totally wasted self stood swaying near the entrance. Any random person could easily see was completely hammered. Stella immediately rushed over. Right as I stumbled backward, I accidentally leaned my entire weight onto her. Assuming it was Lambert, I closed my eyes and happily slurred, let us go home. Stella, that terrible girl is at the bar. We need to escape fast before she catches us. Hearing this, Stella just let out a deeply bitter laugh. Even totally wasted, I was desperately planning my escape from her. Did I truly hate her that intensely? Meanwhile, Lambert still could not flag down any cab. Annoyed, he turned around and saw this exact crazy scene. What in the world was he even looking at? We agreed to be true bros, and completely cut ties with Stella. Yet here I am, leaning against her with a goofy, drunken smile. You and I know this is a total horror show. Lambert's jaw literally dropped to the floor, but Stella refused to let go. Instead, she instinctively pulled me into an even tighter hug, calmly asking about his ride. Lambert helplessly shook his head. Finding a taxi in this crazy traffic was totally impossible. Stella nodded quietly, wrapping her arms completely around my waist. Because if she loosened her grip, my drunk hands would wander everywhere. Lambert stood there completely stunned. Even with my messy clinging out in public, Stella kept a perfectly calm and natural poker face. But only she realized the secret feeling she hid for 3 long years had finally exploded into an uncontrollable fire. She desperately tried pushing down her intense emotions, grabbing her phone, ordering a designated driver. She figured taking her own car made sense since no cabs were available anywhere. I booked a driver, she announced calmly. He will arrive here very shortly. Lambert hesitated quickly, right as he prepared to object. I suddenly pulled Stella into a massive hug, drunkenly whining out loud. Why did it take you so long to arrive? I waited for you inside the bar forever. The second those embarrassing words escaped my mouth, everyone around us completely froze in absolute shock. Phil and Lambert stood paralyzed from sheer awkwardness, while Stella froze completely silent. She stayed entirely quiet, choosing to squeeze me even tighter against her. Watching this unfold, Lambert just shook his head helplessly, deciding to stay absolutely silent. Exactly as promised, their driver showed up super fast. The whole group of 4 immediately piled inside the vehicle. Phil claimed the front passenger seat while we clumsily squeezed into the back. After a massive struggle, everyone finally settled down inside. My drunken chaos resumed instantly. I grabbed Stella's neck tightly, rambling randomly. My head hurts so badly. Lambo, did you know? Stella carefully guided me down, softly patting my back to comfort me. Her actions seemed a bit awkward, yet incredibly gentle and deeply caring. Just bear with it. We have medicine at home. So, do you and I think this sparks real romance? Stick with me here. I just leaned on her shoulder and completely passed out. Lambert just sighed. Lambert finally got his wish. This guy is completely blackout drunk. So there is no way he can go back to your place. Just toss him in some random hotel room. But Stella completely disagreed. Drunk people absolutely need supervision. Otherwise, if they get sick, they could actually choke. Lambert was totally stunned. He genuinely had not considered that. He froze right on the spot. But you two already broke up. Stella shifted a bit more. I stayed totally still through the bumpy ride. Stella, stop moving around. I cannot sleep comfortably. Lambert cursed in his head. Having absolutely zero other options, he just had to back down. Besides, when his buddy got this drunk, literally nobody else existed in his brain except Stella. Acting like this while claiming he is over her. Talk about being totally stubborn. 2 incredibly stubborn people ending up together? Now, that is truly a match made in heaven. Lambert felt a massive headache coming on. Way too lazy for their couple drama. He quickly rushed the driver to the address. I do not care anymore. Drop me at my house first. My head is spinning. Stella naturally agreed. The driver dropped Phil and Lambert off first, and finally brought us home. Stella carefully supported me, step by step, walking back into the house we used to share. Now, pay close attention here. It had been 3 long years. She never expected I would actually be gone for that long. For 3 whole years, she constantly fantasized about my return. So much so that she never even dared to move a single piece of furniture. Even those old, wet, sticky notes that completely lost their grip. She actually used glue to carefully stick them back up, one by one. The exact moment that door opened, Stella looked down and gently placed a soft kiss on my cheek. She whispered so hoarsely, "We are home." I was way too groggy to even hear her words clearly. I only vaguely caught those 2 words. Then that incredibly familiar scent from my memories hit me hard. In an absolute instant, I completely melted. Like a total baby, I wrapped myself around Stella. My head hurts so badly. That one simple sentence pushed Stella's rationality right to the breaking point. She took a really deep breath, staring down at my trembling hands. No, she absolutely refused to let go. She had no idea if I would wake up and furiously scold her for taking advantage of my unconscious state. But right now, this was exactly what she wanted to do. She just wanted to deeply care for me, exactly like I always used to care for her. She just needed to take care of me this one single time. So, she gently laid me down on the bed. Grabbing a warm towel, she gently wiped my face and hands. In that very moment, all those nagging words I used to say totally flooded back into her mind. After cleaning my face perfectly, she just stared at my incredibly familiar features. So vividly real right in front of her eyes. This was the exact person who disappeared for 3 whole years, totally torturing her heart every single day. Stella could not hold back, planting another soft kiss on me. Her warm breath gently fanned across my face. I know what you are thinking, romance time, right? Well, just as she leaned in, I subconsciously frowned. Like a lightning bolt, her rationality instantly snapped back. Stella suddenly dropped onto the edge of the bed, panting heavily, but keeping a very safe distance. Her eyes stayed completely locked on me. After a really long time, she softly whispered, "I am so incredibly sorry for everything. I'm sorry for completely neglecting you when we dated. I am sorry for never truly understanding my own feelings. I clearly loved you, but I lied to myself and actually paraded another guy right in front of you. I'm deeply sorry for everything I did. I am so sorry for those harsh words I used to hurt you. Maybe this is the last time I can be this close. Maybe from now on we will never see each other again." But I still needed to say sorry. With that, Stella quickly fled the scene. Pouring her entire heart out, broke her. This girl, who normally would not even flinch if a mountain collapsed, actually walked away with completely red, teary eyes. She quickly turned and walked right out of the room. Everything went dead silent. It was just me, fully passed out on that bed. But a single, crystal clear tear quietly slipped from the corner of my eye. Early the very next morning, I woke up with an absolute splitting headache. I looked around and instantly bolted upright. This was Stella's bedroom, the exact room I slept in for 5 solid years. I rubbed my temples hard, but I could not remember a single damn thing. I only remembered hitting a bar with Lambert yesterday, and then the two of us just absolutely trashed Stella with terrible curses. But then what actually happened after that? Why on earth was I waking up inside Stella's house? I instinctively checked my clothes still fully intact. Only then did I finally breathe a massive sigh of relief and jump right out of bed. Pushing the door open, I found Stella. This usually pampered girl was just curled up so pitifully right there on the living room sofa. Fronting deep in her sleep, she looked completely restless. I quietly watched her for a moment, then stepped back into the bedroom to grab a blanket. So what do we make of this? After 3 whole years, I worried that blanket was moved. But opening that drawer, the perfectly familiar layout instantly hit my eyes. Wild, right? Stick with me here. Those familiar notes remained. I completely froze, just staring blankly at the faded paper. 3 entire years later, they were still sitting exactly where I left them. Emotion hit me. Trying to stay calm, grabbed a blanket and gently draped it over Stella. She was completely out. A faint scent of alcohol still lingered around her. I tried to slip away, but her hand instantly shot out, grabbing my wrist. "Please stay." My heart absolutely raced. Thinking she was awake, I quickly looked down. Nope. Her eyes were shut tight, frowning deeply, yet holding my wrist in an iron grip. Whatever she was dreaming, she just kept whispering for me to stay. There was absolutely no way I could just abandon her like this. Her grip was incredibly strong, though. I could not just yank my arm away. So I leaned in close and whispered softly, "I'm staying right here. Can you let go?" Stella suddenly froze up. Almost like she heard me, her fingers slowly loosened. With my heart pounding out of my chest, I sighed and walked straight into the kitchen. That is when I saw them. All the sticky notes I wrote, perfectly lined up in their exact old spots. You are going to want to pay attention here. If the closet note was pure luck, then this massive wall of paper staring right back at me could absolutely not be an accident anymore. Stella actually kept every single piece. Tears slowly started welling up in my eyes. Staring at her resting on the couch, my mind was spinning in circles. Out of nowhere, her phone loudly buzzed. She shifted, frowning deeply. Panicking, I sprinted right over and picked up the call instantly, completely ignoring the caller ID. "Hello?" I whispered softly. "Could you please keep it down? Stella is still resting." The moment those words left my mouth, the line went silent, followed by a freezing, sarcastic laugh. That is the exact second I realized something was incredibly wrong. I pulled the screen back to check the name. Unbelievably, it was Chad. I never expected him to call at a crazy time like this. Receiving a call from him now? Remembering my previous words, my face immediately burned bright red with pure embarrassment. I tried to explain, but Chad coldly cut me off. His tone was totally flat. Congratulations, Colin. Looks like you finally won, Stella, in the end. Every single excuse I had prepared just choked in my throat. I stood there, completely speechless. Chad completely ignored my silence, just talking to himself. That social media update from 3 years ago? Totally fake. I edited the whole thing. I was completely floored. Why was he randomly bringing up ancient history? Then a deeply bitter, self-mocking laugh echoed right through the phone speaker. Thanks to that tiny incident last night, Stella tried calling me dozens of times. She panicked, thinking you would misunderstand. Honestly, you hardly even like her anymore. Trying to play the hero now is just a little too late. Having all our hidden drama dragged into the light like this felt incredibly awkward. And honestly, completely suffocating. We were never like this before. Back at the very start, Chad and I were actually the closest of friends. We hung out constantly, walking around the big campus field, gossiping about absolutely everything, and catching all the latest movies together. We both know how this goes, right? Everything shifted the exact moment I started paying attention to Stella. The three of us became an inseparable trio. People constantly joked that Stella and Chad were a perfect match. My insecurities flared up, especially when I finally built up the absolute courage to confess my truth to Chad. I told him I liked her. The very next morning, he showed up holding her hand. My entire world completely shattered right then and there. Before that day, their bond was totally fine, but they definitely did not have romantic feelings for each other. Why would he suddenly fall for her out of nowhere? I wondered about it constantly, and eventually, I just demanded the truth. Knowing this could literally be our absolute final conversation, I desperately needed to finally solve this massive 8-year-old mystery. Heavy silence hung on the line for ages. Then, out of nowhere, another incredibly freezing laugh broke through. Then, he dropped an absolute bombshell on me. Because I envied you, Colin. Back when we first actually met, he was the perfectly behaved golden child to every relative. He studied insanely hard, just to get a single passing compliment from all the strict adults. They would say he was smart, sure, he just had zero clue how to interact with anyone. They joked he would struggle finding a partner. Right then, it hit him hard. Perfect grades meant absolutely nothing compared to my natural charm and easy way of talking. He envied me from day one, so he totally forced himself to play nice and stick by my side. He thought my hobbies were completely ridiculous, but to secretly copy my social skills. He decided to just grit his teeth and endure it. Yet the longer he actually stayed around me, the more intensely jealous he became. Why could I effortlessly charm every single friend group? How come I just had to whine a little bit, and my parents would immediately buy me anything I ever wanted in life? Makes you think, doesn't it? Why was I always forgiven easily, while the perfect golden child felt like he completely lost to me? Alright, stick with me here. Looking back, Chad was completely blinded by jealousy. When he heard my confession to Stella, some wild impulse took over him entirely. You are a smart girl. In this entire world, nobody is a better match for you. I can support your work totally. I genuinely do not care if you love me. Our family backgrounds and social circles, they just perfectly align. Stella was casually flipping through a heavy math book. He immediately recognized it was complex knowledge for graduate students. So, what exactly are you trying to say? The nervous words completely choked up Chad. With huge difficulty, he finally forced it out. Let us be together. Maybe Stella was weird. Chad had totally prepared himself to get rejected by her. He never expected her to agree. From now on, we are officially dating. I truly hope you do exactly as you said. Chad stared blankly at Stella. Deep down in her eyes, there was zero trace of love. Yet, she acted incredibly gentle. So gentle, it felt totally fake. Chad got exactly what he wanted, but he was never actually happy. So, he completely vanished when Stella came searching for him. Honestly, this became the most relaxing, totally free period of his life. Did you not promise me? After graduation, we would get married. Chad looked at the girl before him, feeling completely lost in his heart. Did he truly love Stella? Probably, right? After all, this girl flawlessly checked every single box he had for a future marriage partner. No, he really did not love her. Then, why did he desperately want to snatch her back? Thinking about Colin, he suddenly asked a very bizarre question. Stella, did you know Colin likes you? Right after observing her, deep inside Stella's eyes, a massive wave of emotion flashed. She quickly suppressed it. She was shocked, maybe even slightly panicked. Watch closely, because Chad instantly understood everything. Turns out, he wasn't the only one waiting. Colin was waiting for you. So, Stella naturally rushed back. A few months later, he checked my social media and saw us happily holding our hands. We are together. Chad's heart immediately twisted again. That bitter jealousy he had painstakingly buried just totally flared up. For 5 painful years, acting like an absolute creep, he stalked my online posts. If I smiled, he suffered miserably. If I posted pictures of Stella and me traveling anywhere, he would literally travel there too. Every little thing I did for Stella, he memorized every single tiny detail. Until 5 years later, the moment he finally returned and faced me, I saw Stella standing right with him. There was pure pain flashing in my eyes. That secretly made him happy. Chad felt a sharp ache in his chest, but deliberately smiled. Colin, long time no see. From that exact moment, he decided he absolutely had to snatch Stella away from my hands. But honestly, things completely failed to go smoothly for Chad. After dating me for 5 years, Stella's own heart grew totally unpredictable. She could not distinguish true love from suitability, even when he purposely messed with her feelings, repeatedly reminding her how much he previously loved her. Stella did not just dump me and blindly run back to him like before. Chad seriously believed he was destined to fail. You and I definitely didn't see this coming. I was the one going abroad. Hearing this crazy news, Chad started wildly laughing and crying at the exact same time. He genuinely looked exactly like a complete lunatic. He recalled that old public photo of us holding hands, quickly digging it up. He awkwardly placed his own hand right over it. Hesitating for 3 entire days, he uploaded that picture. The very second he hit confirm, making it visible exclusively to me, Chad totally collapsed. He genuinely felt like the most awful person in the world. So, once again, he cowardly hid away. He retreated into his safe shell, forcefully ignoring everything, until Stella unexpectedly yelled, "Chad, why post that specific picture?" Colin completely misunderstood us. Her deep anxiety honestly was not fake. Stella finally realized the truth. She loved me. This delayed secret was suddenly exposed by his own hands. Chad coldly replied with just a single bitter sentence, "So what? I did it on purpose, okay?" And then abruptly hung up. Watching Stella's calls buzzing constantly, he let out a bitter laugh and just powered his phone completely off. He hid under heavy blankets and slept for 1 whole day. By the time he woke up and nervously turned his phone back on, a massive, overwhelming wave of missed calls just completely flooded his screen. There were also endless text messages from Stella, most of them angrily demanding why he did it and forcing him to explain everything to me. Chad was just about to call back and loudly curse, but the person answering that call was actually me, speaking super simply, with a freezing tone, like I was telling a total stranger's story. My mind was an absolute chaotic mess, unsure how to properly react. Those memories of Chad that seemed blurry suddenly became crystal clear as he painfully recounted every detail. It turns out, during my days of utter heartbreak, Chad was happily able to legitimately stand right there by Stella's side. Chad's situation was honestly incredibly ironic. Everyone is constantly chasing after those precious, shining qualities in others, totally forgetting that they are actually just as excellent themselves. I closed my eyes, feeling pure relief. "I will never forgive you," I said. "So what do you and I make of this crazy ending?" Chad just lightly snorted. "Stick with me here, because things get wild." "Suit yourself," I said, "but honestly, I used to be jealous of you." Chad heard my words like a hurricane hitting. He just sat there, completely stunned, gripping his phone tight. Even after I hung up, zero reaction. It took forever before he finally snapped out of it, like waking from a dream, and just started laughing. That laugh, pure release. Sure, there was shame and massive regret, but that crazy, stubborn obsession was finally gone, completely washed away forever. At that very moment, he finally made his peace. I powered down my phone, turning my gaze toward Stella. Her brows were pulled tight, eyes swimming with incredibly heavy emotions. When Stella finally woke up, the sun was blazing high. She dashed into the bedroom in an absolute panic, only to find the place completely spotless. Not a single trace of him remained. A massive wave of crushing emptiness washed right over her. Pay close attention here. Stella dragged herself to the kitchen, totally drained. She just wanted cold water, since drinking always left her with a massive headache. But right there in that spotless kitchen sat a tiny bowl. She approached. One glance and she knew. It was the hangover tea I always made for her. Instantly, an unbearable surge of deep sorrow hit her again. Honestly, when I was brewing that bowl of tea, my mind was just entirely blank. I only realized what I had done after finishing it. Running out of Stella's place in such a huge rush left my heart seriously pounding. Last night was way too intense. I had so many tangled knots inside my heart, but somehow, they all came totally undone yesterday. Maybe human connection really just comes down to opening our mouths and being completely honest. Face to face. I let out a heavy sigh, stopped overthinking, and headed back home. I was just about to grab my keys to unlock the door when I spotted a woman crouching right by my door. Fiona. I jumped back, completely startled. Why in the world are you here? My voice sounded completely hoarse when I spoke. Fiona scrambled up to her feet, her eyes heavily lined with red exhaustion. Her vibe was totally suppressed. Nothing like the confident Fiona I knew. Did you and Stella actually get back together? I froze, saying nothing. I just took my key, pushed open the door, and said, "Come in." Fiona instinctively knew something was wrong, but facing my direct invitation, she had zero strength to fight back. She just obediently walked right inside. Then she saw me collapse onto the sofa. My face looked completely drained, but my expression was absolute stone. You and I both know this tension is crazy. She wanted to run. I don't want to know. Let's meet later, she mumbled, but I stopped her instantly. Sit down right now. My face stayed blank, but my voice was ice. Fiona went totally stiff, forced to sit back down. You looked into my past. Facing my glare, she couldn't lie. I took a massive breath before asking why she dug into my life. Fiona dropped her head, her voice incredibly heavy. Because I like you. I just let out a cold laugh. Having a crush means you can investigate me? Liking someone means you lie? Fiona was completely stunned by my questions, totally unable to speak. I slowly closed my eyes, trying to crush the massive frustration boiling inside me. What else are you keeping from me? If you could easily track down my home address, then you're clearly not just some regular intern like you claimed, right? Fiona totally froze up. Finally, she spilled everything. The main boss at Dexter Law is actually my uncle. I only came down to Dexter to grab some internship experience. I just scoffed coldly. By now, the whole picture was crystal clear. Exactly. Just like I thought before. This girl definitely didn't act like she came from an average family, but she was way too good at acting. She completely fooled me. I simply cannot trust you anymore. My gaze was super complicated, but those spoken words were absolute fact. Look, the one thing I absolutely refuse to accept is being deceived. Honestly, if you had just been real from day one, we might have actually become good friends. But you chose not to. You completely insisted on wearing a fake mask just to stay near me. I cannot accept that. Her face instantly turned completely white. I can explain everything, she panicked. My uncle warned me to keep my real identity a secret. He was totally worried I would get special treatment because of him. She tried explaining, but her voice kept fading. It was super obvious. She knew her excuse was terrible. Right then, my head was throbbing so hard. I thought I was gonna pass out. So, I quickly jumped up and guided her right out the door. You need to leave now. Just leave me alone to process all this. Fiona didn't dare fight back, letting herself be pushed out, but she still mumbled softly at my door. I am so sorry, Colin. I truly never meant to trick you. Obviously, I ignored it. I was beyond tired, totally drained. Why couldn't a single person in my life just give me some genuine peace? After shooting off a quick text to take the day off, I crashed onto my bed. Within 60 seconds, I was completely knocked out cold. And that is where we leave it. I woke up to insane knocking. Gritting my teeth, I forced myself up and yanked the door open. You definitely want to see what happens next. Let us jump right back into this wild romance. It was Stella holding flowers, and Fiona still hanging around. For a whole night, these two girls had been glaring daggers at one another. The rivalry was heating up big time. Kids doing this makes sense, but Stella actually joining in on this petty squabble. Honestly, I totally did not expect that. The second that door swung open, Stella quickly pushed the flower bouquet right out forward. She looked super serious. Colin, no, I messed up big time. I made you incredibly sad, and I am so sorry for everything. I truly realize my past mistakes. You can yell at me, you can resent me, but I am never giving up. Now watch closely, because things get wild. She offered to be his side chick. My eyes totally widened. I dashed right over and instantly covered her mouth. Fiona was completely shocked, stepping up fast to rip my hand right off her. Why would you? Let's jump into this. Why do you even care? If Colin actually wants to get close to me, then he absolutely will. I was instantly trapped right in the middle of their wild crossfire, and boom. My massive headache was completely back once again. I tightly gritted my teeth. Both of you, just leave. Immediately, Stella and Fiona's expressions completely flipped. They suddenly flipped a switch, looking perfectly angelic. We were honestly just joking around. Actually, our bond isn't that bad, right? Yeah, totally fine. Honestly, I didn't know whether to just laugh or cry. Watch closely. That defensive wall I forced up around my heart for so long. I don't know when, but it finally started crumbling. I'm not exactly sure if it was surrender or some other deep emotion. I suddenly stopped overthinking everything. Maybe if romance completely fails us, being true friends isn't entirely impossible. As for the crazy future, who really knows what might happen? Let's just start over. I smiled, my gaze looking forward and landing right on a certain face. Let's just start as friends. I blindly dropped that line. Then the person before me burst into pure, radiant joy. And that's where we leave it. Okay, let's start as friends. You and I both felt her pure relief. She finally smiled, tears shimmering. But trust me, who says friends can't eventually become lovers? Once again?